Trump campaign mentioned you. Team Trump said, Democrat Senate primary in Michigan is between a radical leftist aligned with Hassan Piker and a theater kid who thinks she has McMentum. The entire bench is cringe. Okay, you can't on the one hand call me a terrorist and then on the other hand be like, he's cringe. It's one or the other. Am I scary? Am I a dangerous radical or am I cringe? You know? But any more college talks in the future? Yeah, there's plenty of stuff going on. All right, so you on that Trump radar, GG's? Yeah, it's going to happen eventually. Let's be real. I mean, get ready for it. It's going to happen at some point. But, you know, it's I don't know when it will happen, but it will most likely happen. And when it does, my life will probably change for the worse. Okay. Blast it off, ladies and gentlemen. $166 billion tariff refunds, ceasefire to end tomorrow. Hormuz status is currently closed. Situation status is currently monitored. Epstein's Fury Day 52, pragmata later, get in now. You already know what's up. Let's, none of the frills. We're just going right into it. We're going right the frick into it, folks. Trump's Truth Social post in his washed era not going to hit the same. Yeah. That's true. WAPO investigated Nick Fuentes' super chats. Yeah, I saw it. This motherfucker makes just off of super chats alone like hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. It's pretty crazy. It is kind of unbelievable how much money this guy makes. But hey, guys, it's fine. He's not a socialist, so I'm sure all of the quote unquote leftists who constantly yell at me will not have an issue with this because. He's not a socialist, and also he's funny. Sometimes he says things that are funny, where he like yells at Nazis in his audience, and that's really funny for everybody. And then they highlight that stuff. Had someone tell me you were a Mossad agent yesterday, so that was fun. Yeah, it sucks because like no one can be fucking objective or normal about the space that I occupy in this otherwise unbelievably reactionary landscape. It makes you wonder what he does with that money. I can't tell how much he's actually ideologically committed, so I don't know. Maybe he'd be backing PACs and stuff. Silicon Valley, MTS, monitoring the situation. First timeline native news network that's always on, monitoring tech, finance, geopolitics, and culture as it happens. We are live now. Yeah. Encountered anti-communist European who hates you, fun stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those as well. Did you see the diabolical lies girlies did an ep on you? Wait, no. Who was the diabolical lies girlies? Are we talking about the platinum mandatory military service thing? What? I didn't even hear about that. Why do you save all your fun for fear end and make streams boring as hell? ASL, do okay, buddy. This is the meat and the potatoes. Okay, that's the dessert. Oh, you don't mean Plattner, you mean Palantir. I was like, what? Graham Plattner said that there needs to be a mandatory draft? I was like, that's crazy. Yes, I saw the idea of smashing the figurine of Jesus, which is, of course, once again, crazier in its reception. The story in and of itself is that, like, that is getting more of a negative reception than the idea of literally killing Christian Lebanese people or just Shia Lebanese people or just Lebanese people in general or Palestinian people or blowing up mosques, blowing up churches. I mean, they've done it all. And it's crazy that like the only thing that people are frustrated by, oh my God, wait, what? Trump says he's not controlled by Israel. I didn't see this one. And if Iran's new leaders regime change are smart. Israel never talked me into the war with Iran. The results of October 7th added to my lifelong opinion that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon did. I watch and read the fake news pundits and polls in total disbelief. 90% of what they say are lies and made up stories, and the polls are rigged just as much as the 2020 election was rigged. Just like the results in Venezuela, which the media doesn't like talking about, the results in Iran will be amazing. And if Iran's new leaders, regime change, are smart, Iran can have a great and prosperous future. Oh my God. God, he is in his washed era. He's chopped. He's chopped and he's unk. Also, good luck convincing people that Israel doesn't control you, okay, or your cabinet after you literally came out of the gate swinging with the Israel is the reason why we had to bomb Iran. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Oh my God. And he keeps writing these long ass fucking dirt. Long ass truth social post. He's so fucking washed, dude. He's washed as hell. Did you see the super pro Israel comment by the Democratic leader on New York 12 on the I've Had It podcast? No, but we're going to start with Iran threatens to retaliate after the U.S. military seizes Iranian cargo ship. We're going to get into all of that and all. We'll look at the Trump responses and more, but I got to pee real quick.
Not be over soon. This video provided by the U.S. military appears to show Marines seizing an Iranian cargo ship near the Strait of Hormuz, a first in this war. We have learned more U.S. forces are headed to the region, including an additional aircraft carrier. And Iran now says it never agreed to a second round of negotiations, despite claims by President Trump. Charlie Daggett has been following every twist of from Tel Aviv on this story. Charlie, good morning. There's a lot of twists and turns in this story. More to come, I'm sure. Good morning.
Good morning, Gail. More to come. Now, with the clock running down on that ceasefire, tensions are only cranking up. Iran shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, opening fire on passing oil tankers. And U.S. officials I spoke with this morning say the crew of that Iranian ship just ignored warnings after a 6-hour standoff. First, the U.S. Navy destroyer warns the crew of the Iranian cargo ship Tosca.
Motor vessel Tosca, vacate your engine room. Vacate your engine room. We're prepared to subject you to disabling fire.
Several rounds are fired toward the vessel. Later, under the cover of darkness, U.S. Marines launch a helicopter raid, rappelling onto the deck of the stricken ship, which is now in U.S. custody. Central Command said while more than 24 commercial vessels have been turned back, this is the first seizure since the U.S. blockade was imposed last week. U.S. officials said that Tosca, headed toward Iran, failed to comply with orders despite 6 hours of warnings.
It's so funny to celebrate being the military force and the naval force that's supposed to keep all of these waterways open, and then to turn around and do this, and then literally be like, yeah, we're pirates now. If Iran can do it, why can't we? It's cool, I guess. Like, we've just decided America is in its fuck it stage. Okay? America has decided to take a different approach nowadays, where it's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, we've decided we're gonna fuck around. Okay? Hopefully we don't ever find out. But it's very mask off lately.
Iran has threatened to retaliate, the most serious threat yet to the fragile ceasefire that expires this week. While the U.S. military presence in the region continues to grow, officials tell CBS News the USS Gerald R. Ford, which has now undergone the longest aircraft carrier deployment since the Vietnam War, has rejoined the fight, transiting the Suez Canal to the Red Sea. More than 50,000 U.S. troops and the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier remain in this region, and more are on the way. A third carrier, the George H.W. Bush, is due to arrive by the end of the month, to be joined by thousands more Marines sailing from the Asia-Pacific region. This morning, Iranian officials described the capture of that merchant vessel as a hijacking and an act of piracy. Now, we know that ship had been identified under U.S. sanctions, but it's not exactly clear what it was carrying. Matt?
Charlie, thank you. Now to the latest on those peace talks.
I love watching CBS News, Israel's favorite news broadcast. Their coverage on this is somehow even worse than CNN. This is obviously the post-Ellison purchase CBS News. CNN pre-Ellison purchase is doing its very best to also broadcast as many pro-Israel positions as possible. Yeah, I mean, what do you say? What do you say? What can you say about everything that's going on? the idea that a double blockade is actually somehow going to open up the Iranian blockade, which the Iranian side said would actually release in good faith, specifically so they could continue along in their in the ceasefire process, only to have Donald Trump decide, no, actually, we're blockading extra hard. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. What can you say about it? It's art of the deal, baby. That's where we're at. It costs $8 million a day to move a fucking carrier group, and these clowns think that we're going to intimidate Iran by doubling down. Yeah, I mean, Iran is obviously gearing up, it seems, for a war posture. And you can tell that they're doing that because the American side has decided to claim that there is a lot of instability on the Iranian side, which is not the case. The Tasnim news agency said, you know, oh, your stupid tweets are not going to change anything. And then the American analysts were like, see, they're dunking on Abbas Araghchi. And it was like, no, they were dunking on Trump. That's another thing that I've seen where people are trying to claim that there's a lot of like conflict and instability internally on the Iranian side. And I think at the end of the day, the guys who are, you know, pulling the trigger are the ones who are in control of the show. So
we're expecting as soon as today. The Trump administration announced the meeting would take place in Islamabad, Pakistan, but Iran says that's not happening. Nicole Killian is at the White House. Nicole, good morning. Now, the talks are on, then they're off. The Strait of Hormuz is open, then perhaps closed. So can you help us sort this out?
Hey, good morning to you, Matt. It's really hard to tell exactly where things stand given these new tensions. Right now, the U.S. and Iran can't seem to agree if new negotiations are actually taking place, and that is casting greater uncertainty over what could happen as a fragile ceasefire is about to expire within days.
Sources tell CBS News Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to lead the delegation President Trump is dispatching to new talks in Pakistan. But so far, Iran says it isn't ready to commit, citing Washington's excessive demands, constant shifts in stance, and an ongoing naval blockade, according to Iranian state media.
The president's...
I mean, look, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but like obviously the American government's assessment here is going to be pro-America, and they're basically going to shift the blame over to Iran, even though Iran has been the stable partner, the reliable partner in this ceasefire process. They've been a lot more invested in maintaining some semblance of stability and also following the escalation ladder as America and Israel keep going up the escalation ladder, opening up civilian targets and all this stuff. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous to hear, but, and especially if you are, especially if you've seen a lifetime of like pro-America sentiment and that Iran is like dangerous and a malignant actor, you're going to hear me say that and go, that's an insane statement, right? But it's not an insane statement. It's just the truth. And the reality of the matter is, if we had more honest global leaders, they would say the truth. Like, this is why yesterday I brought up the fact that, like, Russia could be considered a rogue actor, for sure, like a rogue state that doesn't abide by the same standards. But America and Israel are on a totally different level when it comes to being a rogue state, a rogue actor. They have been unbelievably belligerent. They are so destructive, not just destructive towards loss of life, targeting civilian infrastructure, but also destructive as far as like international human rights goes. They violate it with regular frequency. All of the rules of war, all of the standards that were previously placed, created by the United States of America in large part, have been violated here, where the attitude is might makes right. It's the law of the jungle. Whoever gets to enact the maximum amount of damage gets to do so with no pushback whatsoever. That is the American assessment here, right? That's the American standard here. And now Iran has shown that it has the capacity. Iran has shown that it has the capacity to fight back. And that has kind of ruined the might makes right politics of the United States of America. Because when you have a country that's crazy enough to actually withstand tremendous attacks from the United States of America and willing to commit to creating a military deterrence, well, we see the results, right? It's complete chaos, complete instability. And now America is the party that is forced to be restrained, which they refuse to do so. I mean, the host said that the talks failed because of criteria according to Iran. Not that you give an insane statement yourself. Not that you don't do that.
Prepared to escalate, to de-escalate.
On Face the Nation, UN Ambassador Michael Waltz said if Iran doesn't make a deal, the president is prepared to follow through on his renewed threat to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. Trump added, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Anybody who has dealt with the Iranians will tell you it is often 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
With the ceasefire due to expire this week, both the U.S. and Iran accusing...
It's really funny. Everything that we say about Iran is everything that we say about Iran is actually about us, right? Like, if we're looking at the situation seriously, conducting sober analysis, it's so obvious that we are the belligerent party here. And we just keep saying, we just consistently project the things that we are doing onto our foreign adversaries. It's very, very interesting. Like, oh, you can't deal with these guys. They're madmen. They're insane. And it's funny to do that while the news coverage, like the anchor literally reads, Donald Trump said he's going to blow up all the bridges and all the power plants. And then, boom, you go to the American envoy who's like, yeah, Iran is crazy. You can't deal with them diplomatically. They're crazy. It's like, well, you just described us being crazy. We're the crazy ones. We're the ones who you can't really deal with. I mean, the whole point started, this whole conflict started because there was already a negotiation. There was already a negotiation process, and instead of going through the negotiation process, we decided to use the negotiation process to start bombing Iran with a decapitation strike and blowing up, double tapping a school with little schoolgirls going to it in Minab. It's just, we are a malignant force in the world.
Each other of breaking the agreement by blocking the Strait of Hormuz, despite both sides declaring Friday that it was completely open. Iran's new supreme leader, who hasn't been seen publicly since the start of the war, warned in a weekend statement that Iran is ready to, quote, make its enemies taste the bitterness of new defeat. At home, Democrats are demanding a quick end to the conflict.
The president launched us into this war, and now he really doesn't know how to get out of it.
The president's energy secretary previously pledged gas prices would fall below $3 within 3 weeks. Now he says it could take a lot longer.
That could happen later this year. That might not happen till next year.
According to AAA, the average price for a...
It's just crazy because, like, this is the only thing that Americans give a shit about, too. Like all the instability that we're causing around the world, all of the death and destruction, none of that matters as much as like how much more an American is paying at the pump, you know? I mean, I guess you take it wherever you can, right? I guess if this is a radicalizing moment for the average American, you use that to your advantage. You explain to them that, like, it goes beyond this, you know. Foreign policy is interconnected with domestic policy. What you don't have here is because of what we're wasting over there. You know, this is an argument that you can present to people and should present to people. I just, you know, it's crazy. Like, from the perspective of the average American, all the stuff that Israel did in Gaza was, it was bad. It was fucked up, sure. Some people saw it. They were like, oh, that's gross. I don't even want to think about it, right? But that was still happening over there. It was happening with our tax dollars. Some people paid attention to it. Some people were frustrated. But the real reason, as I always said, the real reason why like a lot of Americans hate Israel now isn't just because Israel was committing a genocide. The average American hates Israel because they were committing a genocide and being really fucking annoying about the whole thing. Oh, Jesus, that was crazy. That was wild. M. Israel Chai, I apologize. I apologize. As always, M. Israel Chai, M. Israel Chai. That was Israel is a tiny nation, size of New Jersey, should be the size of the tri-state, in my opinion. It's too tiny. It should be larger. M. Israel Chai. Okay? Yeah. Now, I'm glad that we got that out of the way, though. That was good. Should be fine going forward, hopefully, inshallah. Okay? And, yeah. All right. Where were we? All right. News. President Trump just told me over the phone that he disagrees with Energy Secretary Chris Wright's assessment that gas prices may not drop until next year. No, I think he's wrong on that. Totally wrong, Trump said. When I asked how soon we can expect to see prices come down, Trump said, as soon as this ends. Cool. When will it end? I don't know. Anyway, as I was saying, the only thing that the average American cares about is how hard their wallets are hurting as a consequence of this. And, we take what we can get, I guess.
Gallon of regular is $4.04, up nearly $1 since last year. Secretary Wright says he believes energy prices have peaked and will come down once the conflict ends. Nate?
Nicole, thank you.
Yesterday afternoon, and the Iranian-flagged cargo vessel Tuska apparently ignoring warnings by klaxon and then radio to stop from U.S. Navy destroyer Spruance.
Motor vessel Toska, vacate your engine room. Vacate your engine room. We're prepared to subject you to disabling fire.
The U.S. Navy said this shows the destroyer firing 3 small munitions designed to stop Tuska, but neither sink her nor set her ablaze. They also released what they say is video of Marines from another ship abseiling to the deck of the Tuska and seizing control of the vessel. Tuska had left port in Malaysia bound for Iran, attacked, immobilized, boarded, impounded on approach to the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump said the ship tried to get past our naval blockade. It did not go well for them. But what now? And that's a question being asked ever more loudly of this war. Another rally in support of the regime in Tehran last night. Iran accusing America of an act of piracy.
Yeah, it was coming back. It wasn't even leaving the strait. We have not stopped. Okay. Iranian tankers, for the most part, are going to China. So we haven't really stopped any of the Iranian tankers that have crossed the Strait of Hormuz. A couple have in the Shadow Fleet. We haven't really stopped those because those are going to China, and that would be a direct, I guess, a direct military intervention against Chinese interests, and we don't really have the smoke for that. But this one was coming back. Okay.
For firing on and seizing the ship. It will be avenged, they said. And those peace talks in Pakistan? Well, the security cordon is in place in Islamabad. The Americans said they were going yesterday, then didn't, because Iran says there's nothing to talk about, accusing the US of making unrealistic demands and contradictory threats.
As of now, as I'm speaking to you, we have no plan for the next round of negotiations. No decision has been taken in this regard.
Last time out, Vance, Witkoff, Kushner and team got precisely nothing in Islamabad. Tonight, Trump said they're heading back for round 2. Iran is said to be looking positively at the latest.
Yeah, so this is also a little bit inconsistent. America says they're sending their envoys, whereas Iran says they're not. Iran has stated, at least like the last time I checked in, before I went to do the podcast, Iran was like, we're not sending our envoys because you haven't shown good faith. And what's interesting about this, of course, is that the ceasefire was a 2-week process and it's supposed to end tomorrow. Also, yes, JD did say in Islamabad, this is the final and best offer, which obviously goes again. Like, I mean, it shows America's hand once again. For Iran, though, they want the American blockade to end, and they thought that the American blockade would end. So the fact that American naval assets are still limiting transit implies that America is not abiding by what Iran thought was going to be good faith initiatives. There's already very little trust between the Iranian parties and the American side for understandable reasons. I mean, this is what, the third time that the Trump administration, Trump directly has like fucked them over. The first was when he first came into office, destroyed the JCPOA, added additional sanctions onto Iran, even though Iran was following the negotiation in spite of the fact that Donald Trump said JCPOA is over. The second time was obviously leading up to the 12-day war, where Donald Trump said, oh, let's get to the negotiations. And then in the negotiations process, Trump used the negotiations to start the first strike that Israel committed to. And then the last instance of perfidy, of course, was 52 days ago, Operation Epic Fortnight, the start of Operation Epic Fortnight. This was when Iran had conceded to many of the maximalist demands that America was making as far as what to do with the enriched uranium and all this stuff. So, I mean, it's understandable that they would be a little bit reluctant to engage America in the negotiations process. But I guess they're going back to Islamabad. The American team is going back to Islamabad, and they're just going to talk to Pakistan, and then Pakistan will relay the information to Iran. As far as I understand, Iran is not going to show up to this, but that might change.
Deal, but they're still not yet ready for the boarding passes to Pakistan. Once again, the Americans look like the ones in a hurry. And Pakistan looks like the one doing a lot of the spade work. Its Interior Minister meeting and being seen to meet ambassadors from the US and Iran today to try somehow and get Islamabad too on the road. So if today should prove to be the eve of talks, what of the commanders who have now unleashed war upon Gaza, Yemen, Syria, Lebanon and Iran? Both today somehow smarting. Trump on social media berating his current abysmal poll ratings, dismissing it all as fake news, lies. Netanyahu speaking on Israel's Remembrance Day, claiming humanity's moral high ground.
But the world already recognises our determination to defend ourselves. Not only to defend ourselves, but to defend humanity from barbaric fanaticism. Small Israel and our great friend, the United States, carry the entire Western civilization on their shoulders.
Some claim from a man who remains indicted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity.
Alex Thompson there. Well, the US president insisted again on social media today that the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, did not talk him into the war with Iran. Our US editor, Anushka Astana, is in Washington. Anushka.
You know, for a moment, we thought that Donald Trump was having a quiet day. He's certainly not speaking in public today. But as usual, his frustrations have bubbled over into a stream of social media posts. And through them, we can really see what is bothering him. The first, what you just mentioned, that critique he's getting actually from the left and right, the idea that Israel talked him into this war. He insists that's not true, that this is...
Yeah, it's, you know, that's a little difficult to that is going to be a little difficult for Donald Trump to deny at this point, right? I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu, Mike Johnson, Donald Trump himself, Marco Rubio, virtually every Democrat that was in the Gang of Eight meetings, pretty much everyone from the start was like, oh my God, you're doing this because Benjamin Netanyahu convinced you. Lindsey Graham openly admitted that it was Israel that gave him the talking points that he could use with Donald Trump. Don't know why they were so excited to reveal this information. Now that I look back at it, actually, 52 days in, I think they all, including Israel, legitimately believed that the Israeli intelligence was solid, was reliable, that like they would be able to do a quick in and out Venezuela-style regime change operation, and that Iran would never attack the GCC nations. Iran would never actually close the Strait of Hormuz. Iran would never have enough striking capabilities to continue pummeling Israel and the GCC nations, and do a tremendous amount of damage to not just the global energy markets, but also to all of these countries in this neighborhood. And I guess that's the reason why they were so forthcoming about how, Israel gave us this awesome info. And of course, we were going to go in and we're just going to fuck shit up. Like, it kind of feels like they were so forthcoming because they thought that this would not be a 52-day quagmire at this point with no end in sight. They must have assumed that this would be a very fast operation, that Iran is very weak, right? The CIA director and Joint Chiefs allegedly said the Mossad intelligence is dog shit, but Trump went with it anyway, according to that leaked story. Yes. This has been a common thing. This has been a common theme with Israel. Israel greatly overestimates the might of its espionage capabilities, the might of its intelligence. Maybe they're even aware of its shortcomings, and yet they make it seem as though they're just like super capable. This is a common problem in the intelligence community. This is something that people yell about all the time. So that's not surprising to me. What's surprising to me is that America was stupid enough to believe it, and we're so forthcoming about the fact that they got this information from Israel, and they were goaded into doing this for Israel. Like that part is actually pretty crazy. I assume, thinking about it now, I assume the reason why they were so open about it early on was because they thought they were going to succeed. Fast and easy, rapid in and out campaign, regardless of what the general said would be the worst possible scenario, which we're living currently, regardless of what the American intelligence assessment was, which was that it would be the worst possible scenario, which we're living through currently. It must have been that Trump's assessment that this will be fast and easy and good, and everyone will celebrate it, and they'll cherish him as the guy who finally ended this 47-year regime, right? It has to be that. Otherwise, it makes no sense to just come out of the gates swinging about how Israel goaded me, the president of the United States of America, into engaging in this unbelievably stupid first strike.
Something he has wanted to address for his entire life. The second one is the critique that he may end up with a deal that is no better or even worse than the one that Barack Obama got in 2015 without a war. Again, Donald Trump says absolutely not true. The third is about the timing of all of this. He's put out a post in which he's talking about World War I lasting over 4 years, World War II over 6 years, suggesting that it hasn't been that long here. And he is also really frustrated with the overall narrative. He's hitting out at the media. He's even hitting out at the polling, saying that polling is rigged. And I think there are two types of polling that will be bothering him. There's global polling. Public First in recent days put out something that suggested in Canada, in the UK, in Germany, in France, the public are more likely to say their country should depend on China over the US under Donald Trump. But also here in the US, domestic polling shows 2/3 of Americans blame Donald Trump for the rise in petrol prices.
So is it panic stations in the White House?
Oh, I think they are pretty worried about it. You know, Donald Trump is talking about winning in Iran, but they're worrying about whether or not they can win in Congress in the midterms that are coming up. And there is a belief that petrol, gas prices are absolutely critical to how the Republicans can do. Politico are reporting that Donald Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, is holed up in a Washington hotel with Republican strategists trying to discuss how they can get the messaging right about all of this. And for all the president says that he's not worried about all of this, it is pretty clear that he is, and there is some confusion at the moment about what is happening in terms of the delegation, the US delegation going to Pakistan. He said they'd already gone. We're now told by sources that they're going to go soon.
Anushka, thanks very much. Well, earlier I spoke to Hamid Reza Azizi, an expert on Iranian security and former lecturer at the University of Tehran. I began by asking him if he believes the Iranians will show up to the talks that, as we've been hearing, are due to begin in Pakistan tomorrow.
Well, the problem for the Iranian leadership is that they are caught between a rock and a hard place, in the sense that Donald Trump seems convinced that his coercive diplomacy is going to work. The Iranian leaders also need to balance any signal of diplomacy with their own support base inside the country, which is very ideologically oriented, and basically sees any sign of flexibility as a potential capitulations.
I mean, you talk about President Trump's strategy being coercive diplomacy. Others talk about sort of flip-flopping between threats and claiming victory and then more threats. But we've also seen what looks like some flip-flopping by the Iranians themselves. You know, first of all, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, then closing it again, saying earlier today they had...
This is how a negotiation works, okay? If you get to the table to put together a ceasefire proposal and you abide by the agreement, you set the standards, you give your points, the opposition gives their points, and then you abide by those standards that were set forth. And in order to show that you are following along in good faith, you start easing some of these restrictions. For the Iranian side, from what I understand, I'm not entirely certain as to how much easing of the restrictions the Iranians were committed to, whether it would be fully opening the Strait of Hormuz or whether it be allowing the ships to cross through on the preordained route led by the IRGC Navy, or just like complete transiting of all ships through the strait. I'm not entirely certain on which of those two things was going to be the case. But regardless, like, Iran said that they were going to ease the restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz. And then America was, from what I understand, also going to no longer have the second block right outside the strait, the naval block that they've implemented. America, on the other hand, did not do that. Donald Trump literally said, oh, Iran capitulated to everything we wanted. They suck. They're weak pussies. They're cowards. Also, we're not letting any of those ships go through regardless. Here, we took over an Iranian cargo ship that was going back into Iran. And of course, like, if that's the case, then yeah, that's not a flip-flop. That's just the Iranian side going, okay, well, I guess we're not opening the Strait of Hormuz then. If you're not going to abide by your side of the deal, then we're not going to just give you everything you wanted. That's not how diplomacy works, especially when you have that leverage, especially when you have that upper hand. You have to, once again, show that you have the upper hand. It doesn't make any sense. And most analysts that I have seen, from Danny Citrinowicz to Sina Tusi to Trita Parsi, most of the analysts, regardless of whether they agree with one another ideologically or not, doesn't matter, have said it's because Donald Trump, and this is the singular unifying factor in all of the analysis. Everyone keeps repeatedly saying Donald Trump mistakes any kind of negotiations as weakness. In his mind, the very fact that the opposition is coming to the ceasefire table, to the ceasefire negotiations table, implies that they're weak, implies that they've lost. That's not how this works. That's not how any treaties are conducted historically. Sure, one side has an upper hand, absolutely. But in this circumstance, if you look at the actual situation on the ground, if you look at the reality on the ground, Iran has the leverage. And it's also something that the American side understands. And they understand it so much that they were trying to set this ceasefire deal up in Islamabad to begin with. It was the American side that was like actively trying to get Iran to the table. And Iran was like, no, we're going to continue. We haven't established sufficient military deterrence. So if you're doing that, then you're equipped with the knowledge, or at least someone in the American team is equipped with the knowledge that in a game of attrition, Iran has the capacity to wait out the United States of America and wait out Israel, because it can absorb a lot more economic damage than America and capital interests can. Because international capital needs stability, right? There's a little bit of volatility where capital owners can make money, but too much volatility, too much instability, and especially a closure of the Strait of Hormuz, all of a sudden, nobody's making money, right? There's great instability all around the world. For Iran, because they have been forcibly pushed out of the international marketplace, because they don't do regular trade, they are already used to this kind of volatile environment, and therefore are capable of absorbing a lot more economic damage than international capital is. That is leverage. That's a significant upper hand that Iran has as opposed to the rest of the world here, right? They've been forced to exist in this environment due to the sanctions anyway. So what every analyst is saying universally is that Trump, on the one hand, seemingly understands that reality, and therefore the American side has been actively begging the Iranians to come back to the negotiations table. But also, on the other hand, the way that Trump communicates and the way that Trump has final say almost implies that any kind of agreement from the Iranian side he treats as weakness. There's an inconsistency here. And under normal circumstances, I would always try to find the rationale behind why certain world leaders behave in certain ways, right? But with Donald Trump, it's very difficult to identify exactly what the logical through line is, because he's just a madman. You can look at previous trends, you can look at past performance and try to map out what is truly going on. Like, one of the things that we can identify is whenever he says he's going to do terrorism, whenever he says he's going to blow up power plants, for example, that just means he's willing to do a negotiation. Okay, that's at least that's what has happened thus far. Okay, as an agent of chaos, when he says, "Oh, I'm going to do the big bad. I'm going to do the genocide on Iran. I'm going to blow up all of your cultural landmarks," that means he's like actually willing to de-escalate. It's the exact opposite. At least that's how you can read it. Judging by past performance. Danny Citrinowitz says, it's a mistake to live under illusions. Agree with Sina Tusi. Danny Citrinowitz from the Atlantic Council, agreeing with a senior fellow at CI Policy, by the way. Very interesting time to be alive. These two people are directly at odds with one another as it pertains to foreign policy. One is a non-interventionist, anti-interventionist think tank. The other is a pro-liberal interventionist think tank. So when you got both of these guys agreeing with one another in their own assessments, understand that Trump has gotten so crazy that, you know, you just kind of have to recognize that things are a little unstable. Iran is more likely, Danny says, Iran is more likely to escalate than accept a good deal that forces concessions on missiles, enrichment, Hormuz, or its regional proxies. The argument that a weakened Iran can be pushed into a favorable deal is flawed. Even if weakened, Iran is more likely to escalate than surrender. After weeks of sustained aerial pressure, it is already clear any large-scale military campaign will dramatically worsen regional and global economic consequences without forcing Iran to concede. At its core, forcing Iran to give up its missile program or enrichment would amount, in Tehran's eyes, to regime change. That is precisely why the Iranian leadership will resist it at all costs. There are no easy solutions, either a deal broadly resembling the previous nuclear agreement or escalation that leads not to resolution, but to a far more dangerous confrontation. Attempts to imagine a good deal ignore both the structural constraints and the realities we've seen unfold since the 28th of February. In hindsight, it is clear that a policy which completely ignored the nature of Iran's current leadership and relied primarily on wishful thinking has led us into a deeply problematic strategic reality. By ignoring the regime's ideological rigidity and decision-making patterns, this approach replaced strategy with illusion, and the results are now evident. Yeah. This also goes back to, again, that inconsistency that we're seeing with like the way that America is moving and the way that America is talking. On back channels, they're demanding that Iran get back to the ceasefire table to get back to negotiations. But Donald Trump, who has final say on these operations, is behaving as though there is no need for negotiations, right? And we hear some of the more insane versions of this whenever he goes on TV, where he says, like, we've destroyed the Iranian Navy, we've destroyed the Iranian military, Iran doesn't exist anymore, we've cratered Iran, their missile cities are gone. But then we look at observable reality, and it's obviously very different, right? Now, there's been a ceasefire for the past 2 weeks, so you can't tell, I guess, or maybe we forgot. But up until that ceasefire, Iran was pummeling the GCC and also Israel. So clearly, we had not attrited their striking capabilities. We had not destroyed nearly enough TELs, which are replaceable and easy to fix. And not only that, but perhaps more importantly, we had not established full-blown aerial superiority over the Iranian airspace, and that's and the observable reality there is by looking at the weapons that America was using. We deployed and expended a tremendous number of our standoff munitions, which are missiles that you use from afar, rather than the unguided or guided gravity bombs that you normally would use, which we have virtually infinite supply of, not infinite, but close to infinite supply of, as opposed to the standoff munitions. We're not using those because those are dropped from airplanes. And if you haven't established air superiority, if you haven't created a no-fly zone over Iranian airspace in the way that Trump is claiming, yeah, air superiority, yes, but not air supremacy, sure. But even if there was air superiority, you wouldn't have had so many planes fall out of the sky, right? That's just the reality. It would be easier for American flights to conduct their missions without having to withstand anti-air defense systems. And it's very clear that Iran still has denial capabilities, anti-air defense systems. And that's precisely the reason why there was a search and rescue mission that took place, right? I mean, that's because they dropped an F-15 over Iranian airspace. They dropped a Warthog in the process as well. Like, they still have capabilities of defending the Iranian airspace. So once again, you don't just listen to what the American side is saying. You have to look at what the American side is doing. So, by ignoring the regime's ideological rigidity, it's time to fundamentally rethink our assumptions and strategy towards Iran before the situation deteriorates even further. Instead of weakening the regime and reshaping the Middle East for the better, the opposite has occurred. It has been significantly strengthened, especially amongst its core supporters. As a result, the region now risks moving into a more dangerous direction with a more radical and more assertive Iran at its center. And the only think tank, it seems, that still operates inside of Washington that has the president's ear, unfortunately, is the Benjamin Netanyahu think tank Foundation for Defending Democracy, FDD. And they're the only guys who are like, things are going great, actually. We should just be extra hard. We should do more of the strikes. We should continue waging war against Iran. We shouldn't stop until Iran is destroyed. And everybody else is like, no, you're a fucking idiot. This is an unbelievable catastrophe. It has greatly diminished American force projection capabilities around the globe. It has made our footing with our allies, not just in the region, but certainly outside of the region, in the Asia region, for example, Asia Pacific region, far worse. It is causing everyone to recalculate American security cooperation agreements. We're losing our standing with our Western allies in NATO. We're losing our standing with the Asia Pacific allies. We've frustrated everyone, both because of the economic damage that they have to withstand, the energy crisis that they're currently going through. As Donald Trump keeps saying over and over again, it's not our problem, it's your problem, even though he caused the problem to begin with. It's a spectacular defeat. Hard to see how the violent spike in inflation and shortages in East and South Asia brought on by Trump's war on Iran doesn't eventually spike inflation and economic pain in the U.S. and Europe. There is a delayed response here in the United States of America because all the commodities that they make over there that they're not going to be able to make or make in a much more costly manner is inevitably going to lead to inflation in the American markets as well. Okay? Just as our oil that we receive from the Strait of Hormuz comes, almost a month after everyone else receives it. We have a delayed response here, a delayed impact on the inflationary crisis that we've brought about the rest of the world, but it's going to happen. And of course, markets, as expected, are behaving in this unbelievably irrational manner because everyone is just holding on to the idea that as long as we all make it seem like things are going to be fine, then eventually things will be fine and we'll keep making money. Many countries across the Asia Pacific are experiencing sudden jolts of disruption that they are struggling to manage, with some comparing the crisis breakdowns to the scope of the COVID pandemic. Even if there's a peace deal soon, the future of this industrious region that has driven global economic growth for decades will likely include months of canceled flights, surging food prices, factory pauses, delayed shipment, and empty shelves for products long considered quick and easy to buy worldwide. Plastic bags, instant noodles, vaccines, syringes, lipstick, microchips, and sportswear. Collectively, according to many officials and experts, if the war's strangling of commercial traffic through the Middle East lasts for even a few more weeks and uncertainty lingers, shortages could push several countries into convulsions of unrest followed by recession. Polyester and nylon are also derived from petroleum. In the sewing hubs of Bangladesh, Gazipur, and Ashulia, where clothes are made from Walmart, Zara, and Uniqlo, severe disruptions to production and shipment schedules are common and on track to worsen. The strain we are under now, managing it will become very tough if there's no continuity in gas or fuel supply, said Abdullah Hil Naqib, Deputy Managing Director of Team, a Bangladeshi garment factory group. We are seeing that the prices of our raw materials are also rising. Today, the price of thread has almost doubled. So they see it immediately. We see it in a delayed manner. Okay, because this touches everything. The international trade system is interwoven. Everything is interconnected. So you might assume, oh, we're in America. How does this impact us? We don't get our oil from the Strait of Hormuz, even though we do, but it's like, minor. It still has downstream consequences on increasing the price of goods that you purchase. A lot of people don't understand that for some weird reason. We act as though we assume that like we're totally operating with a different industrial base. We are not. The entire world is getting their goods, especially the Western world. They're getting their goods from the Asia Pacific region, right? That's where all of the things that we consume and things that we purchase, things that we use are being produced. So if they don't get their oil, if they don't get their gas from the Strait of Hormuz, which is where they get their oil and gas from, then they can't produce things. If they can't produce things, you can't have the components necessary for production even happening in the Western world, or you can't get the commodities in the Western world at all. If the price goes up, then your price goes up because everything is interconnected. Americans have a very hard time comprehending this reality for some weird reason. This is precisely the reason why the stranglehold that Iran has over the Strait of Hormuz is so devastating and will have long-term reverberations, long-term global consequences, and they've already begun.
No plans to join the talks, and in the last hour or so saying they're positively thinking about it. What's happening here on their side?
I think these two are kind of related to each other, and there's a kind of a vicious circle created by the decisions on one side that impacts the strategic moves on the other side.
But some of the contradictory messages, some people would say, coming out from the Iranians themselves. The question is that a strategy, or isn't it true that there are clearly different factions fighting for control here?
So I don't see it as a sign of infighting, but as I said, as a sign of a regime under pressure that it impacts, it restricts its flexibility and room for maneuvering, and also leads to these contradictions. So contradictions do exist, but the way they should be interpreted, I think it's a bit different than how it is recently.
We have to focus on community and shopping locally if we're going to make it through this. Buddy, I need you to understand something, okay? There is no local community support if certain things that you have taken for granted that you utilize in your day-to-day lives, like, I mean, syringes, right? Like, they were just bringing up syringes. Like, what do? You can't locally source syringes, right? Like, that's not a thing that happens. That's not something you can do. If syringes are being made in a factory in India, and now that factory in India doesn't have the necessary resources to keep up with the output, all of a sudden, syringes are going to be infinitely more costly, right? Places are not going to be able to purchase them. It's just not a thing that you can overcome through the local barter process, right? Yeah, nitrogen for fertilizer is transported through the Hormuz. Just go to the local fertilizer producer in my town, bro. It doesn't work like that, right? And America already doesn't have the manufacturing base regardless. Even cotton, too. My job emailed us saying that the price of organic cotton yarn went up 7 to 10% over the last week, and it was already expensive with the previous tariffs. We already took our prices up to compensate, but might have to do more. You are very wrong. All my favorite pistachios, coffee beans, and jalapeno poppers are made locally in my American suburban backyard. Surely none of this will be affected. Yeah. We here in the United States take for granted this global design, this global trade design that we have implemented and have, benefited from tremendously. But we don't understand that all of this is a very fragile system. Okay? It's all unbelievably fragile. And for the longest time, as long as America was the only disruptive force and was choosing its enemies wisely, even if it was an enemy that could fight back like the Vietnamese, it was somewhat sheltered from the rest of the, did not have the capacity to disrupt global trade in the same meaningful fashion as Iran is able to by controlling the Strait of Hormuz. It was fine, right? Afghanistan, it was fine overall. It wasn't fine for the Afghan population. It wasn't fine for the Iraqi population, but it was fine for the rest of the world, right? America came into Iraq, for example, and immediately secured the Ministry of Energy, right? That was the first thing that we did. Why did we do that? Well, because Iraq is an oil producer, and we wanted to make sure that there was, that the assets were protected. So this is a different situation because you can't, the damage, the impact is always going to be global. It's not just a localized impact. There is localized impact as well, but the long-term consequences will be global. And America still very much operates in the global trade design, and therefore we will absolutely experience long-term shocks as a consequence of this.
Discussed in the mainstream discussions, actually.
And in terms of what all of this means, should these talks go ahead for the chance of a lasting peace. What's your assessment?
I think there should be some sort of a face-saving off-ramp. I can imagine that if President Trump, for example, decides to even temporarily remove this naval blockade, or say that it's not going to be imposed as strictly as it was, at least in the past 48 hours. Like confiscating Iranian ships. If that happens, that would give some room for maneuver to the Iranian delegation to go there. Because as I said, they also need a deal. Just to give you some statistics, 2 million people have lost their jobs as a result of this war, directly or indirectly. The other day, the spokesperson of the Iranian government said that the cost of reconstructing the country after the war is something around $270 billion. So this is what they need. And they certainly don't want to go back to war, but coercive diplomacy seems not to be working because of the perils that would pose to the regime from inside.
Hamid Reza Azizi, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
In July 2024, Secretary Blinken claimed Iran was 1 or 2 weeks away from having enough fissile material breakout capacity to eventually make a weapon if Iran had decided.
Yeah. Democrats, man. For years and years, we kept up this ridiculous lie that Iran was days away from having nuclear arms, that, Iran was a very dangerous, unstable actor in this region. You should read that, regardless of who's saying it, as Israeli propaganda, because that's precisely what it was. The only actor in this region that Iran was a real, genuine threat to was Israel, okay? And that's precisely why Israel kept repeatedly saying this over and over again. And that's why a lot of our Israel first politicians also kept repeatedly saying this over and over again. And that's precisely the reason why. Like, a lot of the Democrats, after spending the last, 30, 40 years repeating this ridiculous lie, are kind of having a hard time communicating exactly why they oppose what Donald Trump is doing. Right? We've been gearing up for this moment. We've been at least doing propaganda for this exact moment for the longest time.
To do so. There were indirect negotiations that the Biden administration did, but it went nowhere. So when President Trump argues that he did when no other president would, is it just simply that the bill was coming due and it fell on his watch?
I do think there's a certain element to that.
This is Amos Hochstein, okay? Amos Hochstein served in the IDF, by the way, was the advisor to the former President Joe Biden. Alongside Brett McGurk, Amos Hochstein, once again, served in the IDF, was formative in Biden's Middle Eastern design. He was one of the key architects of Biden's bear hug strategy and unlimited support for the nation state of Israel as Israel was doing a genocide. Okay? Just so you understand. It was two key guys, Amos Hochstein and Brett McGurk. So the question being presented is being presented to Amos Hochstein. So he's a good guy? Yeah, the best guy. No, he's not a good guy. These guys are unbelievably evil, okay? They're bloodthirsty warmongers. Democratic partisans have been pointing to Trump's war for weeks to chide Hassan Piker and anyone else they blame. Read everyone but themselves for losing in 2024. But it turns out the Biden admin was planning to attack Iran if they won a second term.
There were direct negotiations that the Biden administration did, but it went nowhere. So when President Trump argues that he did when no other president would, is it just simply that the bill was coming due and it fell on his watch?
I do think there's a certain element to that. And that's why I was supportive of President Trump joining in June.
Yeah, so was Brett. So was Brett McGurk. If you remember, Brett McGurk went on CNN and was like, this is awesome. The 12-day war. During the 12-day war, Brett McGurk would go on CNN every day and be like, oh, this is so sick. We actually trained for this exact same situation when Biden was president. If you recall, I covered it at the time. Okay. Brett McGurk would go on CNN every single day and say, we trained for this. We should get a little bit of the credit too. What a beautiful sight.
To take the strikes that we had thought internally in the Biden administration we may have to take if there was a second term. We thought that the spring, summer of 2025 was probably, we may have to be there in the same place. And we did. We did war games. We did some practice runs on what it would look like to look into it. And because that may have had to happen under our watch as well. But he said we obliterated their nuclear program. The question then is not about what he did in June. This war we were in now.
Why? Why did we have to do this at all? Why does no one in the media go, I don't understand. Why do we have to do this? Who is this a threat to? Don't you feel like the current predicament is a far graver threat to the rest of the world than anything prior to our military intervention here at the behest of Israel? It's just totally ridiculous. No one ever asked that question, like, why are we attacking Iran? That's never the question. The question is, how are we attacking Iran? Why haven't we been able to destroy Iran? How long will it take to destroy Iran? No one ever asks, why are we attacking Iran? What are we doing? Why are we attacking Iran when the only time, if the nukes are a real threat, okay, if the nukes are a real threat, if it's a significant threat that Iran has nuclear arms, which, by the way, I don't think it would be a threat at all. I think it would be, the region would be more stable if Iran had nukes. I am totally in agreement with Professor Mersheimer, who advanced this theory, right? Some may say it's the Hasanabi nuclear sovereignty doctrine. Sure, that's fine. But outside of that, like, you can ask the question, why? Why are we fighting against Iran? If we are worried about Iran developing nuclear arms, then the only successful attempts at restraining Iran's nuclear ambitions was during the JCPOA. So it's clear that diplomacy is the only successful method here. So why should we be attacking Iran? Why have we attacked Iran? Donald Trump ripped apart the JCPOA, and Iran went back to enriching uranium beyond civilian usage. Clearly, they have done so to maintain some kind of leverage against the sanctions that we have implemented. That is a demand for negotiation. That's not a demand for war. That's not a real, a genuine interest in developing nuclear arms. That's just leverage. Leverage to bring the United States back to the negotiations process.
Did not attack the nuclear facilities again. Mm-hmm. This was not about the nuclear. So the question now becomes, can you do a deal with the Iranians? And the maximalist positions that both sides have are right now very far apart, despite all the rhetoric that we're almost there, or we are there, but if we're not there, we'll bomb the hell out of them.
Yeah.
In July
everyone's saying, like, oh, this is different. This is totally different. Trump is so irresponsible. Failed to consider that plenty of former Biden administration figures that were unbelievably pro-Israel and were certainly Israel first. Brett McGurk and Amos Hochstein are two key figures here, are saying we would do the same thing as well. As a matter of fact, we were training for this exact moment. And they've said that over and over again. Anyway, getting back to Donald Trump, effort posting through this process. The deal that we're making with Iran will be far better than the JCPOA, commonly referred to as the Iran nuclear deal, penned by Barack Hussein Obama and sleepy Joe Biden. One of the worst deals ever made, having to do with the security of our country. It was a guaranteed road to a nuclear weapon, which will not and cannot happen with the deal we're working on. One thing that's really funny about this is that Democrats don't even raise this point, because many Democrats that are in leadership roles, like Chuck Schumer, for example, were directly opposed to the JCPOA at the time because, come on, let's be real. Again, Chuck Schumer cares about Israel a whole lot more than he cares about the Democratic Party, his own constituents, American democracy, yada, yada, yada. All of that is secondary. Okay? Don't take my word for it. Take Chucky Boy's own word for it, right? He was in opposition to the JCPOA at the time. Okay? So that's part of the reason why many of the Democrats in power don't bring up the fact that there was a successful deal that was implemented that Donald Trump destroyed, the JCPOA. Okay? Because Israel didn't like the JCPOA. Israel hated it so much that Benjamin Netanyahu came to America, okay, was invited to speak in front of Congress. Many Democrats didn't attend that speech, by the way, because it was a symbolic speech to say fuck you to Barack Obama, where he complained about Barack Obama in the halls of Congress. Okay, he gave a State of the Union as the real president of the United States of America when Barack Obama was in the process of implementing the JCPOA. That is the level of access and the hubris demonstrated by Israel. Many of you are probably oblivious to this reality. It happened decades ago. You probably don't remember. You probably didn't know. But that has been the case, okay? So if you're confused as to why many Democrats don't raise the point that there was a successful implementation of a denuclearization agreement with Iran through not war, but through the negotiations process, it's because they too are pro-Israel. But what's interesting about it is now Trump is bringing up the JCPOA, which will force the hand of Democrats to be, oppositional to Trump. And now maybe they'll be forced. Now they might be forced to bring up the JCPOA to say, hey, Barack Obama did actually see a decent amount of success here. Okay? It was guaranteed road to a nuclear weapon, which will not and cannot happen with the deal we're working on. They actually gave $1.7 billion in green cash, loaded onto a Boeing 757, and flown to Iran for the Iranian leadership to spend any way they saw fit. He emptied out all the cash in the banks in D.C., Virginia, and Maryland. Those bankers said they'd never seen anything like it before. In addition to hundreds of billions of dollars was paid to Iran. If I did not terminate that deal, nuclear weapons would have been used on Israel and all over the Middle East, including our cherished U.S. military bases. The fake news, like lightweight Washington Post journalist David Ignatius, loves to talk about the JCPOA, knowing that it was dangerous and a complete embarrassment to our country. If a deal happens under Trump, it will guarantee peace, security, safety, not only for Israel and the Middle East, but for Europe, America, and elsewhere. It will be something that the entire world will be proud of instead of years of embarrassment and humiliation that we have been forced to suffer due to incompetent and cowardly leadership President Donald J. Trump. Again, another funny part about this is that Donald Trump, as a part of the current ceasefire negotiations that he begged Iran to conduct with the American admin, is releasing $20 million, not $1.7 billion of green cash, but $20 billion. Okay? 20. Joe Biden unfroze $6 billion. Barack Obama unfroze $1.7 billion. Donald Trump is slated to unfreeze $20 billion. Okay? Now, some of that is the Brandon inflation, okay? Joe Brandon, he did inflation. So it's really funny that Trump is trying to volunteer this information as though it was bad. And I'm sure a lot of his moronic fan base will eat this shit up. But I wish more Democrats would communicate that this was a far better alternative. Diplomacy was always a far better alternative to dealing with Iran than whatever the fuck we're doing currently. Gregory Bruce says, but if you want to see some clarity as to why the U.S. gave Iran $1.7 billion in 2016 as a part of the JCPOA, here's a good explainer. The money was a part of the pre-revolution agreement that was still lingering in arbitration. The reason it was such a large sum was the accumulated interest. So he then follows this up with a second effort post. And when our boy is writing these effort posts, know that he is suffering, okay? He is constantly chirping about Iran now. He is constantly chirping about how Israel doesn't own me. I'm not dominated by Israel. Don't say that. Don't say that Benjamin Netanyahu dominates me. Don't you say it. I am not blackmailed. He said, oh my God, how many fucking posts has he had? It's unbelievable. Trump compares his war in Iran to World War II and calls Democrats traitors. We won't let the weak and pathetic Democrats traitors all belittle the accomplishments of our military and the Trump administration. Oh, he's doing the thing where he's like, oh, you're not yelling at me. You're yelling at our beautiful military. You must hate America. It doesn't really work when you're Trump, though. Okay. At this point, Trump saying, you're not yelling at me. You're yelling at our beautiful military. Oh, I bet you wouldn't say that to my troops' face, is kind of like if Trump came out and was like, oh, you're not yelling at me. You're yelling at the Pope, actually. You're not yelling at me. You're yelling at all good Catholics at this point. I was simply highlighting the beauties of Catholicism. Like, everybody knows that you're a madman. Well, not everybody. 70% of the country knows you're a fucking madman. Okay? 30% think everything that you're saying is great and awesome, and they believe it, even if you contradict yourself in the same sentence, as he does with regular frequency. Trump says the Democrats are doing everything possible to hurt the very strong position we are in with respect to Iran. Despite World War I lasting 4 years, 3 months, and 14 days, World War II lasting 6 years and 1 day, the Korean War lasting 3 years and 1 month and 2 days, the Vietnam War lasting 19 years, 5 months, and 29 days, and Iraq lasting 8 years, 8 months, and 28 days, they like to say that I promised 6 weeks to defeat Iran. And actually, from the military standpoint, it was far faster than that. But I'm not going to let them rush the United States into making a deal that is not as good as it could have been. I read the fake news saying that I'm under pressure to make a deal. This is not true. Oh my God, this is so true. At this point, when Donald Trump claims something is not true, just know that it's definitely true. He is crashing the fuck out right now. It is very funny. I am under no pressure whatsoever, although it will all happen relatively quickly. Time is not my adversary. Again, objectively false. In the game of attrition, Iran, every day that passes by that the Strait of Hormuz remains closed is a day that Iran gains more leverage and America loses more leverage, which is why the double blockade was very stupid. The double blockade was unbelievably stupid for this reason, because the whole point of the blockade is that it benefits Iran and it harms the interests of capital and therefore harms America standing around the world. The only thing that matters is that we finally, after 47 years, straighten out the mess that other presidents let happen because they didn't have the courage or foresight to do what had to be done with respect to Iran. We're in it, and it will be done right, and we won't let the weak and pathetic Democrats, traitors all, who for years have been talking about the dangers of Iran and that something has to be done, but now, since I'm the one doing it, belittle the accomplishments of our military and the Trump administration. He does kind of have a point there. Democrats have, foolishly, being the Israel first party that they are, just like the Republicans, have for years said that Iran presents a constant danger, a constant threat. If Democrats were saying the truth throughout that process, right now they would have a stronger position. They still have a fairly strong position. They're not even leaning into it because they're fucking assholes, but, you know, that's besides the point. This is being perfectly executed on a scale of Venezuela, just a bigger, more complex operation. He's going to hold on to the Venezuela operation till the day he dies, man. He's like, this is just like Venezuela. All the haters and losers saying this is not like Venezuela. This is just like it, okay? Except for the fact that it is exactly the opposite. It has not been an easy in and out mission, and that we didn't do regime change almost overnight. That did not happen. And also the international energy markets are collapsing, even though I try to hold it together by lying every day. I did Venezuela. Remember Venezuela? It was so good. In my first term, I built the greatest military our country's ever seen, including adding Space Force. In my second term, I am properly and judiciously using our military to solve problems left to us by others of far less understanding or competence. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. Axios reports he's over it. Axios reports he's over it. Trump wants it done. He doesn't like Iran holding control over the Strait over the Middle East. He doesn't want to fight anymore, but he will if he feels he has to, an administration official tells Axios. Well, why did you begin it if you weren't capable of finishing it? You know, I'm bored now. It's lame. It's woke and gay. I don't care about Iran no more. Oh, wonderful stuff. There's even more, by the way. A third tweet has hit the timeline. This one hitting the Pentagon, I guess. Donald Trump says, I'm winning a war by a lot. Things are going very well. Our military has been amazing. And if you read the fake news, like the failing New York Times, the absolutely horrendous and disgusting Wall Street Journal, or the now almost defunct, fortunately, Washington Post, you would actually think we are losing the war. The enemy is confused because they get these same media reports, and yet they realize their Navy has been completely wiped out. Their Air Force is gone onto darker runways. They have no anti-missile or anti-airplane equipment. Their former leaders are mostly gone, in parentheses. This has been, in addition to everything else, regime change. And perhaps most important of all, the blockade, which we will not take off until there is a deal, is absolutely destroying Iran. They are losing $500 million a day, an unsustainable number even in the short run. The anti-America fake news media is rooting for Iran to win, but it's not going to happen because I'm in charge. Just like these unpatriotic people used every ounce of their limited strength to fight me in the election, they continue to do so with Iran. The result will be the same. It already is. President Donald J. Trump. Wait, he has another one? The Iranian leadership has forced hundreds of ships towards the United States, mostly Texas, Louisiana, and Alaska, to get their oil. Thank you very much, President Donald J. Trump. By the way, even just our burn rate as opposed to Iran, if we're taking what he's saying seriously, and like Iran is losing 500 million a day, we're losing 2 billion a day. And that's just like our military expenditure. Okay. So no, I think meat for meat, you know, they're doing a lot better. They're going ban for ban. Yeah. I like that Donald Trump's last couple of posts has just been, don't tell anyone in the news. Do not put it in the newspaper that I am mad. Oh, meanwhile, the U.S. has suspended all funding and security coordination with Iraq's government and suspended dollar shipments to Iraq's central banking system, Al-Haddad. You know, our evil never goes away. You know, we're also making Iraq, we're punishing the Iraqi population for the successful militia movement in Iraq that has actively purged the national boundaries of U.S. troops. So we're using whatever kind of leverage we have over Iraq. Ro Khanna said the thing that I've been saying, thank God. Barack Obama did his homework. He engaged in statesmanship that left America safer and built a coalition to prevent Iran from having enriched uranium. All Trump did is listen to Netanyahu. That's his entire foreign policy. And that is why Donald Trump posted this tantrum this morning, claiming Israel has no control over his decision-making because he was watching Maria Bartiromo. And he was watching our boy, Ro Khanna, go on Maria Bartiromo and say the truth. Because, like, if you are invested in ensuring that Iran never has a, you know, enriched uranium that's capable of building a nuclear weapon, then Barack Obama did it. I have many criticisms of Barack Obama, many criticisms of Barack Obama. However, this was one of the things that he did right. This and Cuba were the two major points of credit that I give Barack Obama all the time as it pertains to his foreign policy. Washington is a part of his fighting oligarchy tour. Senator Bernie Sanders is heading to Ohio, Minnesota, and Michigan for May 1st to May 3rd, where he will hold a series of rallies with U.S. Michigan, U.S. Senate candidate Dr. Abdullah Syed, Minnesota U.S. candidate Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and U.S. candidate Brian Poindexter, a union iron worker running in Ohio's 7th congressional district. Hell fucking yeah. That's going to be awesome. Oh my God, that's going to be so sick. Very excited about that. Anyway, let's get back to Morning Joe. I have other stuff going on in the same time frame with other candidates, so I don't know if I'll be able to go to any of those things. Maybe the Michigan one potentially. Who knows?
Welcome back. The Wall Street Journal is out with new reporting from behind the scenes at the White House entitled, "Despite his public bravado, President Trump is grappling with his own fears regarding Iran." According to the Journal, the operation to extract 2 airmen whose jet was shot down over Iran this month was followed by hours of the president screaming at aides, quote, "Images of the 1979 Iranian hostage crisis, one of the biggest international policy failures of a presidency in recent times, had been looming large in his mind. The paper reports the president is dealing with his own fear about ordering troops into harm's way. Trump has resisted sending American soldiers to take Karg Island, for example, the launch point for 90% of Iran's oil export.
This story is incredible, by the way. That's why he was saying the Wall Street Journal is incredibly corrupt, is the worst newspaper, all this shit. Because this Wall Street Journal piece is unbelievable. I mean, I guess it's super believable if you are paying close attention to how Trump moves. But this kind of like insight into what's going on behind the curtain has been very revealing, and it's basically just complimentary information to the analysis that we've conducted here on the Hasanabi broadcast. It's just, you know, it's a spectacular fuck up, and you see a panicked Trump behind closed doors.
Sports. Well, he was told the mission.
Morning Joe is the best news program on cable TV. Okay, dude, calm the fuck down. All right, it's probably one of the worst. We're not glazing Morning Joe here. We're glazing. We're glazing the Wall Street Journal, which is also crazy. But
and the territory's capture
just
would give
this
the U.S.
article.
access to the strait. He worried there would be unacceptably high American casualties. Still, he has made risky pronouncements without input from his national security team, including his post about plans to destroy the Iranian civilization, saying seeming unstable could help spur the Iranians to negotiate. A president who thrives on drama is bringing an even more intense version of his unorthodox, maximalist approach to a new situation, fighting a war. He is veering between belligerent and conciliatory approaches and grappling behind the scenes with just how badly things could go wrong. Joining us now, the co-author of that piece, White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Annie Linsky. So, Annie, what else are you hearing about the president's feelings about this behind the scenes? And it seems to match pretty well, or track pretty well, with the way Iran is responding, which anybody with a sense of how things go with Iran is not surprised about.
Yeah, Micah, my colleague Josh Jossi and I set out to try to draw a portrait of the president at war. Donald Trump has had two presidencies, but he has never overseen a sustained military campaign like this. And while we, as Americans, have seen his very unique governing style in other aspects of his presidency, legislating executive orders and the like, we've never witnessed this type of sort of impulsive and his sort of desire to appear chaotic during wartime. So that was what we were trying to show and the reporting target that we had for this piece.
Annie,
I mean, this is Nixon madman theory. The problem with that, however, is when you match up against another madman, it kind of fucks up your plans. Like, he is definitely demented, and it helps with the unique style of communication. Okay, fuck you, says Fallen Amen. So here's the problem. If you have an opponent that is far weaker, doesn't have any kind of like, not nuclear arms, but functionally the nuclear weapon of destroying 20% of the oil production and gas production of the entire world, or at least like stopping the transit of 20% of the entire world's energy supply, which is functionally the same as like, being as disruptive as a nuke, right? When you have an enemy that has that capability and they are exercising their power, you kind of can't do the madman theory, right? Because the madman theory only works when you're posturing about like utilizing nuclear arms. But if your enemy is also saying like, yeah, we got nukes too, we'll use them. Fuck you. You know, here's a tactical nuke. All of a sudden, that theory falls apart. Do you think this kind of coverage means they're ready to liquidate him? I don't think so.
Things I thought was really fascinating about your piece was how there seem to be two parallel tracks happening that are not necessarily communicating with each other all the time in the White House. So you've got during the operation to try and rescue the airmen, you've got the security people keeping Donald Trump away from the situation because they thought he might make it more complicated. But then at the same time, you've also got the president on his own track launching truth.
The Nixonian madman theory was the way that Nixon communicated to appear more irrational, willing to use nukes if necessary, in an effort to erode the confidence of his adversaries. Like, oh, he's crazy. Tricky Dick. He's a crazy guy. He's a madman. He could deploy nukes if necessary, right? And that's pretty much what Trump is also trying to do. I mean, he is very Nixon in many ways, not just that. Paranoid, willing to erode all norms and all rules. But the problem here is there was never a situation where the opposition also had nukes and were entertaining the utilization of nukes. In this circumstance, Iran's nukes are not actual nuclear arms, but a nuke on global trade, which they have deployed. Yeah. Political theory commonly associated with U.S. foreign policy, President Nixon and his administration who tried to make the leaders of hostile communist bloc countries think Nixon was an irrational and volatile person so that they would avoid provoking the U.S. in fear of an unpredictable response. The premise of madman theory is that the appearance of irrationality makes otherwise non-credible threats seem credible. For instance, in an era of mutually assured destruction, threats by a rational leader to escalate to a dispute may seem suicidal and thus easily dismissible by adversaries. However, suicidal threats may seem credible if the leader is believed to be irrational. International relations scholars have been skeptical of madman theory as a strategy for success in coercive bargaining. Prominent madmen such as Nixon, Nikita Khrushchev, Saddam Hussein, Donald Trump, and Muammar Gaddafi failed to win coercive disputes. One difficulty is making others believe you are genuinely a madman. Another difficulty is the inability of a madman to assure others that they will not be punished if they yield to a particular demand. One study found that madman theory is frequently counterproductive, but that it can be effective under certain conditions. Another study found that there are both bargaining advantages and disadvantages to perceived madness. Also, this only works if you're America. That's the other thing. Like you can't really behave in a rogue state manner if you are not America, because America wrote the rules of the fucking wrote the rules of the globe, right? But yes, of course, Donald Trump is also deploying this technique as well. The problem is, again, you can do this to, you could have, I mean, you did this to Soviet bloc countries, right? You did this to Soviet bloc countries to a certain degree. But your capacity to escalate and your capacity to behave in an irrational way, is only as powerful as your opposition's willingness to abide by those norms. If your opposition, in this case Iran, has already shown their hand and has exercised tremendous leverage over you, then it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. And that's why when Trump says like, oh, we'll destroy the power plants in Iran, we'll destroy the fucking bridges in Iran, that's a part of his like madman diplomacy in air quotes. But that doesn't stop Iran from controlling the Strait of Hormuz. If anything, that would force Iran to destroy the oil refineries in the region. The madman theory only works if the opposition is willing to both be a stable actor and is invested in offering concessions and doesn't have a serious upper hand. Iran has a serious upper hand. Iran has the leverage.
Socials about ending a civilization, for example, or praise be to Allah on Easter morning, without negotiation and clearing those posts and going through the post with his national security team. So how much is it the president just launching things, and how much is it the national security team actually running the operation in the White House?
Yeah, those tweets, or I should say those Truth Social posts that took so many people off guard who woke up and read them about ending a civilization, saying, praise be to Allah on Easter Sunday of all days. Those were not tweets that he had even sort of chatted with his national security team about. They read them much the way we did after they were posted. The president did ask his staff about those tweets and said, how are they playing? What am I being criticized? And his staff said, yes, sir, you are. You're facing quite a bit of criticism for them. Some of his members of his national security team read them and saw, weren't as alarmed by them as many others were. They said, look, they felt that he was communicating the way the Iranians do. The Iranians have for years said.
That is literally the opposite of how Iranians communicate. Unless he means like, praise be to Allah, they say that. No, Iranians will always write deep prose. Like they'll be like, they'll slap on like a poetry from like the 13th century, and then they'll be like, this is a surah that we abide by. Like the sword of Ali will fall upon those who disrupt the normal day, normal existence, whatever, right? Like they don't. Trump is just insane. They are, yeah, they're much more romantic with their utilization of prose. They don't do this at all. You have to roll up on stream for socialism. What does that even mean? Roll up on stream for culture? Oh, you mean 420 blaze it. Okay.
Death to America, and believe perhaps this would get through to them in a way that the more restrained language that we're used to.
Oh, because they say Margbar America, Margbar Israel. That's what they're talking about. Oh, got it. Yeah, that's not the official communiques when they're doing diplomacy with the West. That's not what they're saying. That's just something that they chant over there. It would be the equivalent of saying like, oh, well, Americans famously say bomb Iran, and they make a joke about it, except that was someone who was trying to be president who did sing that. And Donald Trump is literally currently saying that as a part of the official communiques of the state, whereas the Iranians aren't doing that.
From a president perhaps has not. But you're right, that wasn't something that was being workshopped within the White House. As to there was a long call that was open when the two airmen were down behind enemy lines, and that is an instance where
this part is crazy. During the combat search and rescue operations, they just kept them out of the room. That's awesome. Okay, they were just like, please don't fuck this up. Sir, Mr. President, we got this handled. Okay, don't worry about it. We got this shit handled. Is locked and loaded. Just don't. Here's McDonald's burgers. Here's some Lego videos to keep you occupied, sir.
The staff were updating the president frequently, but they didn't want him to be on that line. They were concerned that he was so impatient as he was watching those developments that they didn't have him doing the minute-to-minute call. But to be fair, to be sure, he was being updated regularly in that weekend when those airmen were down.
Jonathan, off of what Andy just said about the president doing this to speak in a way that the Iranians understood, I have heard from Arab leaders in the region, several over the past year, that they actually, I'm just reporting, they actually like the fact, as one told me after these posts, that the mullahs now have to deal with someone who is, quote, crazier than they are.
Dude. Again, these guys, you could say they are, they have a capability of enacting tremendous violence, both at the domestic level and certainly as a part of their foreign policy as a regional actor against countries that are aligned with the United States or aligned at the behest of U.S. and Israeli interests. But to say that these guys are like dangerous and irrational is just not true. It is continuing along with this fucking fantasy. They have always been ready to negotiate with the West to a degree that was unsustainable, naive, and self-destructive. And this isn't new. This has been the case for 20 plus years now, 2 decades.
Diplomats across the region have said he actually thinks like an Arab leader. He doesn't think like an American leader. Donald Trump thinks and talks like the sort of leaders that we grew up with.
Yeah, maybe that's why he's fucking eating shit right now. Okay. Oh yeah, I am an Arab sheik, and I believe Trump is behaving just like us Arab sheiks, famous for having implemented successful acts of diplomacy, famously getting our wishes across all the time. If there's one thing you know, if there's one thing you can point to about Arab diplomacy, it's that it's always been a resounding success.
And if that throws the Iranians off, you Americans may not understand this, but we're totally fine with it, which I found to be fascinating. Yes,
I don't believe this conversation took place. Okay. I don't believe this conversation took place. I'm going to be honest with you. I think Joe is making this up. Sorry. I'm just going to say it. I think Joe is making this up. What Arab leader is calling up Joe, Morning Joe, to be like, we actually love the way that Trump is behaving right now. We didn't want any of our oil and gas shipments to transit out of the Strait of Hormuz at all. We personally love that shit. And also, as you know, we're violent savages, us Arab leaders. We're violent savages ourselves. So we're very stoked that Donald Trump is behaving like us, the violent savages that we are. Like, who is saying that? Especially when all of the reporting shows that while Saudi Arabia and the UAE were, not UAE, but Saudi Arabia was like maybe not fully on board, but kind of on board with like striking Iran and deteriorating their capabilities and like weakening Iran. They weren't on board with like fully destroying Iran because that would lead to a dangerous predicament and unbelievable instability in the region. Maybe the UAE was on board with it, but who cares about what they have to say? Even the United Arab Emirates now is saying, we have to get financial aid from the United States of America. Otherwise, we're fucked. We're done. Okay? The Emirates are no longer so united, sir. Iran has successfully killed the idea of Dubai, sir. And again, that is a language that Trump understands. When all of the financial deals that they put together, like these mega mergers that the GCC states are putting in tremendous amounts of money into to put together these mega mergers that the Trump family is also benefiting from, all of that is falling apart. All of it. So clearly, they're not super on board with everything that's going on.
You have a problem with it. I have a problem with all of it. That said, even this past week, I heard again, as I've been hearing for a year, he's the only American president that can strike fear in the hearts of Iranians.
Unbelievable cope.
Well, and I would say, and also in the hearts of everybody that lives in Washington and across America.
Yeah, no question there. White House aides, as Annie reported, anxious at the time. A lot of them since that post have sounded, well, it worked. Look, they got Iran to agree to the ceasefire. Like, these sets up the table for negotiations. Like, sort of defending it in retrospect. the madman theory, if you will, that you just outlined, Joe, that it's impossible to predict Trump, so therefore you have to fear the worst. And that's all this was, art of the deal, that stuff. We'll see. But Annie, the other thing that your story illustrates well is, though Trump this time, second term,
Jr., thank you for the
far
10
more
gifted.
likely to authorize military force than in the first, but he's still hesitant to cross a threshold of deploying ground troops. He's still very...
Dude, only Morning Joe could take this Wall Street Journal article about like how scared and how panicked Trump is and how paranoid Trump is and how his handlers literally need to, how his handlers straight up need to ensure that he's not in the room when like serious military operations are being conducted, and turn it into it's actually awesome and everyone is so scared. Everyone is so scared that the guy who is controlling the nuclear arms, the nuclear arsenal of the United States of America is out of his fucking mind. And Arab leaders have told me, this is just like us, man. We love this. Keep posting that shit, sir. That's what they're saying, actually. Great. Oh, this is MS Now, by the way. This is supposed to be the liberal news network, by the way. This is supposed to be the most libbed up news network. Thank you, Morning Joe, for finding a way to take this Wall Street Journal article that offers insight to what's happening behind closed doors and turning that madness and chaos into something positive, seemingly, for Trump's art of the deal.
Very nervous about American lives lost in themselves would be...
I swear to God, every crime or lol, are you talking to me? Got to be a boss to beat the main boss? Are you calling Iran the main boss? Don't you realize that that's an admission of defeat? Every time a Trump supporter comes in here, they just like hit themselves and hurt themselves in confusion. Every time. It's very strange. Why are your haters always so fucking stupid? I mean, because I'm anti-MAGA, I'm anti-fascist, and I think a lot of MAGA are just very dumb. And a lot of people who end up opposing me end up aligning with MAGA and therefore presenting themselves as very dumb.
Terrible, but also the political ramifications of that. So speak to us about that still, that hesitation, and what we could learn from it as we consider what could come next, because the fate of these negotiations is still very much in doubt. Trump may need to escalate further and actually to get this war to close if it can't be done on the negotiating table in Islamabad the next couple of days.
Yeah, I was really struck in talking to some of the people around the president and his advisors and some of his informal advisors, the extent to which he has brought up in conversations Jimmy Carter and how Jimmy Carter's experience in Iran, this exact regime that the President Trump has been bombing, but how Jimmy Carter's experience in Iran has loomed large as he's been weighing what to do. And he has even spoken, the president has spoken publicly about this in a March event in Florida. He brought up Jimmy Carter as he was talking about he was ticking off Democratic failures in foreign policy, but he dwelled at length about Jimmy Carter, something that his friends have said and people who have spoken to him have said he has talked about privately as well. So his hesitance on putting troops on the ground is real. He's very concerned about how that would be. He has not been in a position before of sending troops in harm's way in this way. That is not to say he won't do it. And his advisors have been very clear with us that remains on the table. It's not something that they're going to take off. But he has said, troops going to Kyrgyz Island, would they be sitting ducks? Would they all be killed? And that is a very real fear that he has articulated.
And for good reason. And Annie, I couldn't help but notice the picture that accompanied your story, at least when I read it online, had so many parallels with the failed 1980 Operation Eagle Claw, the failed operation to rescue the Iranian hostages back in 1980. Obviously, that parallel haunts the president, doesn't it?
It really does. It's something that we have heard he talks about extensively. And this is a time in his life when he was coming of age. He paid close attention to the news, as we know. But he would be one of he is one of 7 presidents to be bedeviled by this national security threat that Iran has faced, and he has thought about how other presidents have attempted to handle it and failed. So it is on his mind.
All right, White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Annie Linsky, thank you very much for your reporting. The new reporting is available to read online right now.
If I had a fraction of the infinite grace afforded the rich pedophiles, I could move the world, bro. Yeah, no, the wealthier and more pedophilic they are, the stronger they get, the more empathy they get, and the more grace they get.
Welcome back.
Yeah, here is Maria Bartiromo. This is what pissed off Trump, apparently. This combo with Ro-Khanna.
Of U.S. forces taking over an Iranian cargo ship after a 6-hour standoff. The cargo ship was trying to break past the U.S.'s naval blockade. The ship, called Tauska, reportedly spent much of the last year moving between China and Iran.
Tim Apple stepping down? Wait, what? Wait, what? No. What does this mean? Who's taking his place? Didn't he already glaze the living shit out of Donald Trump? I mean, he polished that shit. What was it all for?
Hundreds of commercial tankers are now stranded on
This
both.
has been known. Oh God, here we go. All the Apple heads. It was time for him to go. He was kissing Trump's ass too much. I mean, I assume that that's what they're going to continue doing, right? Yeah. Urgently hiring military service, U.S. Navy mortician.
Sides of the strait after Iran halted traffic in the strait over the weekend, reversing course on its decision to effectively open it on Friday, agreeing with the United States. Tehran now telling shippers they must use new traffic lanes along the Iranian coast. But President Trump told me yesterday on the phone that it was the U.S. who closed the strait because of the blockade. U.S. officials are gearing up for another round of talks in Pakistan tonight. The Iranians, however, still no response on this meeting. The state media is suggesting that Iran might not show up, although AP reported this morning that the meeting is on, and President Trump told me yesterday a deal will be signed tonight. Meanwhile, House Democrats are now discussing plans to force a vote on an Iran war powers resolution every day until one passes or U.S. operations in the region end as the conflict approaches the 60-day mark. February 28th is when it started. Joining me now is California Congressman Ro-Khanna. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Good to see you, Maria.
And I want to get your take on where we are. You introduced a bill to stop U.S. oil exports during the conflict.
Do you think Iranians will show up in Islamabad? I don't know. They said they won't. So they could be just posturing. They have done that before. Like even in the lead up to the last Islamabad talks, like they acted as though they weren't going to show up until literally the very last moment. So I don't know if they are, if they're posturing or if they're actually sending delegates. Oh, it seems they are sending delegates. Iran plans to send negotiating team to Islamabad Tuesday. Multiple U.S. outlets report Iran is preparing to attend a second round of talks in Islamabad on Tuesday, but no Iranian officials or state-linked media have confirmed the news. The New York Times' Farnaz Fasihi reports, citing 2 senior Iranian officials, that a delegation led by Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf and the Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is making plans to travel to Islamabad, but the Ghalibaf will only attend if Vice President J.D. Vance is also present. Vance is scheduled to depart Washington for Pakistan on Tuesday, giving the Iranian delegation time to travel from Tehran, New York Times said. The Wall Street Journal, citing people familiar with the matter, separately reports that Iran has told regional mediators it will send a negotiating team for a second round of U.S.-Iran talks. MS Now, citing a diplomat in Tehran indirectly involved in the talks, also reports the delegation will travel only if Vance is present. The ceasefire is set to expire Tuesday, but Iran has not issued any official confirmation on whether it will participate in talks. The foreign ministry spokesperson said in a briefing this morning that no decision has been made regarding the next round of negotiations. Is Iran using J.D. Vance as a human shield? They love me, please. Yeah. They're like, bring the fat one. Bring the fat President Trump. Bring the fat one. We love him. He looks like a QBD.
In Iran, why do you want to stop U.S. oil exports during this conflict?
Isn't this confirmation that they sold out? No ceasefire in Lebanon, and the blockade is also not lifted. Both preconditions, as they said. We'll see. All you can do is wait and see. Okay, if they go to the ceasefire negotiations and none of the preconditions are cleared, then yes, it makes sense as to why Trump thinks this is perceived weakness, because they are showing weakness.
Introduced a bill to stop U.S. oil exports during the conflict in Iran. Why do you want to stop U.S. oil exports during this conflict?
Maria, it's common sense. Why would we be sending our oil overseas when Americans are getting fleeced at the pump? When gas has gone from $2.30 to $4, we should have our oil supply for Americans, and that would bring down the price. This was a giveaway in 2015 to the big oil companies. Yeah, it's good for them. It's not good for the average consumer.
I don't know if it's a giveaway, really, but the truth is the president told the nation just the other day, and we know this to be true, that the U.S. is producing more oil and gas.
What?
Under Joe Biden, the Democrats do not want to see drill, baby, drill, right?
The U.S. was producing, as you know, more oil and gas at a record level, even
she was mudded
under Joe Biden. The point is, though, why are we
silenced by libtard media
exporting it? And Maria, the biggest point is, why have we gotten into a war that has led to the closing of the Strait of Hormuz? The Strait was perfectly open 60 days ago. And, you know, I talked, as I know you do, I talked to some of the senior finance guys at Wall Street, J.P. Morgan, others. They thought that this war would have been over in 3 weeks. This war has gone on 60 days. It's hurting the economy. It's putting our lives at risk. We've got Khamenei Jr. in charge, who's actually more hardline with the IRGC. We have a worse regime in there. What have we achieved?
Are you saying that you do not think it's a good idea to defang Iran from having a nuclear weapon?
Absolutely, we should do that. But this is not achieving that. We now have Khamenei Jr. who actually wants
to do that. So, Congressman, how do you expect to do that?
I'll tell you how
what is your plan? Hold on. What is your plan to ensure that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon?
Well, this is not doing it. This is putting Iran closer on the trajectory of a nuclear weapon, because Khamenei Sr., who we assassinated...
That's not true. That's not true. President Obama...
Let me just finish, Maria. Let me just finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
You know, look, Khamenei Jr. is saying he wants to develop it. The more hardline IRGC is in. What we need is the enriched uranium. Even Vice President Vance acknowledges it. That is underground. You can't bomb to get that. You need diplomacy. We should be sitting...
I missed your last take. Is there any way I could possibly rewind the stream, perhaps? Oh, why? What a wonderful question. The Piker Broadcasting Service has a rewind function as long as you're watching on a desktop. If you subscribe to PBS, Piker Broadcasting Service, you can make use of the emotes all around the platform. You can actually send me links. No guarantees that I'll click on them. And you can also rewind the VOD to go back and watch whatever you want to that you may have missed. Piker Broadcasting Service is always sponsored just by you, the people, and always will be for you, the people. Hey, Cat for Cutie, thank you for the 15 community gifted subs. And Jaeger08 Larson, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Piker Broadcasting Service for tomorrow's news today. The People's Broadcasting Service.
Down with Oman, with other nations. Now that maybe we have leverage, we should be getting a deal. But to be threatening to wipe out Iranian civilization, to be threatening to blockade the Strait of Hormuz and close it, hurting the economy, that's just not rational policy.
Now, President, look, are you saying that you want diplomacy with Iran and you think that they're going to tell you the truth? They just told us months ago that they did not have any long-range missiles, and then they sent a long-range missile to the Diego Garcia Island. So I'm just trying to understand what your plan would be to defang Iran from a nuclear weapon, because right now, as the president has said many times, Iran's Navy is gone, the Air Force is gone, the leadership is gone, and yes, it impacted the economy, and the Iranian people are begging President Trump to finish the job. I mean, we had on Reza Pahlavi, a ton of other Iranian citizens who say, please, President Trump.
Yeah. Have you noticed they haven't been communicating as much lately, Maria? Perhaps there's a good reason for that. I haven't seen any of the Pahlavis on the main stage since we started bombing Iran, and like maybe the first 2 weeks while we were continuously bombing Iran, all the Pahlavis were on TV. They're like, oh, this is great. President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu is so good. Thank you. Thank you. They haven't been thanking President Trump as much. I wonder why. Perhaps it's because the situation changed dramatically. It's no longer favorable to America or Israel.
Help us. So exactly what are you saying? You're saying you would rather the president do diplomatic talks, and you think they're going to tell us the truth?
Maria,
In fact, some of them are saying they never said to bomb Iran at all. Oh, wow. Masih Alinejad, I do not belong to the group of opposition that romanticized the war, and I kiss the hands of my critics. What? What? Oh my God. Masih Alinejad is now walking back her calls for the U.S. to attack Iran after nearly a decade of support for sanctions of war. She literally went out. Oh my God, someone send me the video. Send me the fucking video when she ran up into the streets. When she was running around, dancing in the streets. Oh my God. Few Iranian American voices have been as supportive of bombing Iran or as aggressive in defaming opponents of war as Masih Alinejad. But now that it's clear that the war has been a disaster, Alinejad predictably backtracks and tries to portray herself as a victim. But her contemptible role will not be forgotten. She betrayed two peoples here, the Iranian people whose blood is on her hands, and the American people whose military she treated as her private mercenary army. Oh my God. What happened? Are the checks drying out? Is that what it is? Remember when she was literally the first day that the bombing started, she was crying tears of joy, running around and yelling at random New Yorkers, being like, we have done it. He is dead. Ayatollah is dead. President Trump. President Trump. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's what she was doing. What happened? What the fuck happened? Here it is. Here, this is one of the many different instances.
I love America. I love everything about this country. I grew up in a country where I was brainwashed to say death to America. The same country, how ironic, the same country that I wish death saved my life 3 times and now helped my people in Iran. They are celebrating.
TERFs love her. I don't know why. What do you mean? She has the exact same vibes as a TERF. What the fuck are you talking about? Why do you think TERFs love her? She looks and sounds and has the exact same vibes as a TERF.
Every morning I wake up reading that my people being killed by Ali Khamenei, but this is the first morning in my life that I get the good news and I want to run. I want to run. I want to run. I want to run. I want to just run. I want to just run and shout and shout. And shout out of joy, out of joy, out of joy, out of joy.
She's Turkish. Don't put that on us. Don't put that on us. Okay. Don't put that on my people. Come on now. I mean, a lot of Iranians have a lot of Turk in them, but.
Khamenei is dead! Free Iran!
Free
Iran!
Wait, why not?
Thank you. My country's gone. Oh my God, I love America. Thank you. Ali Khamenei is dead! Ali Khamenei is dead! I love Iran. I love America. I want to tell everyone. Yes. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you, America.
Austin is leaving a day early.
No, I'm not.
He's leaving a day early. He fucking hates it here.
No, what?
He literally told me I was muted. He was like, I fucking hate being here. I absolutely despise being here. I despise you. I hate your chat. That's what he said.
Look, you asked me. Look,
He said, they can't hear you, bro. You got to speak to the microphone, okay? Wait, hold on. I haven't unmuted yet.
I don't want to intrude. See, I'm very insecure about, I don't want to intrude. And so Hassan hit me last night and he goes,
I just asked him when he was leaving.
He's like, when are you leaving? And I was like, well, I was like trying to read between the lines.
That's not what it was. That's crazy. That's crazy. He's like, yeah, I'm out of here. And then he said,
I'm gay and Lebanese. No,
which is crazy.
Nothing to do with it. But look.
And then he said,
people, I hate white people. Wait, is that on the soundboard too? Look, genuinely, I enjoyed spending time with you. We watched 2 episodes of a show together.
That's crazy.
We had such a good time.
Man. It's fine. No, it's cool, man.
Like I'm just setting myself up. I'm gonna go near the airport so I can be ready for my flight tomorrow. You know what I mean? It had nothing to do with you. And
this is exactly why I was asking when your flight was leaving, so I could mentally prepare for this breakup.
You are
check his backpack for protein shakes.
No,
son of a bitch.
I didn't take anything. I didn't take anything from your house. I drank a lot of your waters, but that's about it.
Okay,
so that's about it. But
no, it's fine, man. It's all good.
No,
I mean,
look,
I'll be sad.
Yeah. Oh no, come on.
I hate to see you go, but I love to watch you leave. Type shit. You know what I mean?
Oh man. Oh, you saying I got a fat ass? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's fine, man. It's fine.
I've been working on my butt recently.
It's fine, bro.
I've been working on my butt.
We're just coworkers, bro. You won't show up to my funeral either.
Are you kidding me? Of course I show up to you. Are you kidding me? I would host your funeral.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine, bro.
Are you kidding me? The speech I would deliver?
Don't worry. You're spiritually still here.
I hate white people. I hate white people. Oh my God. Hey, so what's going on? I was supposed to be on the stream yesterday, but I was in Master Baker.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I was like, Austin, the people miss you. They want to see you. Like,
well,
where have you been? People keep asking, and you're like, I hate them.
No.
Because
I hate white people. I mean,
that's what you kept saying. And then you kept saying,
I'm gay and Lebanese. I joined the masses of white people in Hoscourt who hate white people.
Oh,
right?
okay.
The self-hatred of white people. I joined that. But I'm Lebanese, I'm white passing Lebanese. So, a lot of people don't know that.
It's fine, bro. It's fine. We were, we were going to cover the news together.
I mean, I can cover the news. I have some time if you want me to cover but I don't want to intrude. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a professional political commentator. But you and I align politically on many things. You know?
That's good. That's good to know, man.
We do have a few disagreements, like your thoughts on 9/11. You and I both know that's something where we fundamentally disagree.
Yeah.
That's where we.
Austin
and
I've
condemned you many times for those comments. But
Austin made this cake. Yeah, I saw. It's nasty.
Yeah. Well, look, I think. You think it's nasty because you're homophobic?
No, you gave up and you did bukkake as you told me.
No, I mean, look,
you told me you gave up.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, look, it's a beautiful story, and if you didn't listen to the story and you just saw the cake, it may not taste as good.
Oh,
but at the end of the day, it has everything that a cake has in it. It doesn't matter how you put the ingredients in.
Anyway,
but yeah, I know
we were watching the Iranian dissidents of the government who were demanding that they bomb the Iranian people now walk back those statements and say that they never actually wanted the bombing campaign to happen at all, but they were celebrating it at the time.
Well, let's see what she was doing on Fox News.
Well,
did you play it?
I already played it.
Oh, shit. Okay.
But the reason why I was bringing that up is because Maria Bartiromo is talking to Ro Khanna about how, everyone loves what Trump has been doing in Iran, like, Pahlavi, Reza Pahlavi, and all these like Iranian people have been celebrating, and they haven't been. They were celebrating initially, but they haven't been.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously
as of late, because it's been a massive fucking failure.
Well, I mean, we all knew it was going to be a failure from the beginning.
Yeah,
right? We all knew it was going to be a failure.
Not all of us. Some people in my chat kept yelling at me for some fucking weird reason.
I just don't understand what they expected. Like we were going to bomb Iran, and people were going to all of a sudden be like, "Oh, now's our time. Just got to dodge all these bombs, and then we can take over the government somehow." With what? I don't understand. There was no, you know what I mean? There needs to be There wasn't even like correct me if I'm wrong, but there wasn't even really a resistance of like group that was even tangible to even be the ones that led this uprising, right?
There was no next day after. There was no plan for what the government would look like.
Right? You would need that. There was none of that. So like it didn't make sense from the beginning, and we knew that this was going to happen. But yeah, and it's a silly war that we got, we know why we're in the war.
He only disagrees with your 9/11 quote because airplanes were hurt in the process. Yeah, people don't know that we simulated 9/11. Austin tries to disavow it, but like he literally was like, Hassan, do a 9/11 simulation when we did the airplane.
What? I did not say anything about that. I did not say anything about that.
So if there's any Fox News, if there's any Fox News producers watching, just don't let him get away with that. He made me say it.
I
even
want
back in 2019.
I want to let everybody know that
he made me say it.
I condemn his comments on 9/11, and more specifically, I condemn his comments on Pearl Harbor. It's a lesser known fact about Hassan that he says that he believes that America deserved Pearl Harbor and 9/11. Yeah, no.
Oh, God.
Fox News, are you listening? Yeah, that's a good one.
Cooked.
Get that
I'm fucking
soundbite.
cooked.
All right, Ro, let's see what Ro's got to
They're
say.
not begging for Donald Trump to wipe out Iranian civilization. They're not begging for him to blow up every power plant and threaten war crimes. And they don't like the fact that we have actually a more hardline regime in there. They have not created a regime that is respecting human rights or protesters. And the reality is, yes, I don't trust Iran.
Hold on.
Obviously, Reagan had said trust to verify.
Maria Bartiromo is such a psycho.
You can't sit there and tell me that you are talking about Iran's human rights.
Yeah, Austin disagrees with my 9/11 comments because he says that they didn't go hard enough. It's really fucked up. I was like, bro, you can't be saying that kind of shit.
No.
That's what he said. He was like, it was a failure.
No. It was
because some of the planes fell without hitting the Pentagon. That kind of stuff. He also thinks it's fake.
No, I think it's real.
He thinks 9/11 is the fake.
I think
it's when the way they treat women and the way they treat citizens.
This is what kills me is why do all of a sudden they become super woke?
Oh yeah, whenever it's military intervention time, they're like,
it's always super woke.
Do you know what they do to gay people? What I want to do to gay people here, they do over there, and I'm jealous.
Yeah, they're like super woke. They're like pro woman, pro gay. They're like they kill gay people and everything like that. We don't kill gay people. We're just trying. We're not that far along in the process.
Yeah, we want to do it, but Iran is lapping us on that field.
Moral equivalence between the way President Trump treats citizens and are you putting an equivalency there?
No, I'm not putting an equivalency. What I'm saying is that we have not created a regime that actually is respecting human rights. We have a regime that is more hardline. There is no democracy emerging. There is no regime that's actually closer to the United States. Actually, what we've done is we've increased China's role in the region. Now they want to have oil transactions in the yuan, not in the dollar. And so what we've done is actually lost influence in that region. And we haven't gotten the enriched uranium. I mean, that is the problem.
Well, I think that President Trump is trying to negotiate that. And he told me yesterday directly that he's expecting a deal to be signed tonight in Pakistan. I want to move on to other issues because I know you're doing a lot, Congressman, and we appreciate that. But here's my final question on this issue. Are you suggesting that Obama's leadership on Iran was better? Because under President Obama, there were 14 wire transfers to a hold on. There were 14 wire transfers to a Swiss account.
This is why Trump got so mad. He started posting up a fucking firestorm on Truth Social.
No, I know.
He was like, the JCPOA was bad. It was weak. It was terrible.
Yeah.
To Hezbollah between 2014 and 2016.
Barack Obama gave $1.7 billion to Iran. Donald Trump is slated to give $20 billion.
Yeah, because of wait, is this part of the negotiation or just how much? So he's gonna give them more money,
so much more.
And then on top of that, how much money we've been spending on a daily basis bombing them.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is what triggered
billions of dollars.
Which is what triggered the closure of the Strait of Hormuz to begin with. Like, it was unimpeded, untouched for all of those 40 plus years, with like one exception during the Iran-Iraq war for a brief moment. But outside of that, it's never been contested. Iran just never took advantage of the power that they had over the Strait of Hormuz, and they were literally pushed. They were pushed into what is this? What? Fear and talking about revolution? What are you? Let Ludwig completely shut that hugely productive convo down? What is this person saying, bro? What planet are you living on? What the fuck?
I think we need to step outside for a moment. Let me talk to them. Go ahead and just take a moment, and perhaps there's a new episode of the Fear and podcast. We moved past that one, and just step outside for a moment, and it's okay. It's okay, and it's okay. Just move on. I don't think that. I think that you're maybe having
Paralyzed Pendant plug. Thank you for the 25. Get the subs.
You think that? Did I deal with that? Okay.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Yeah.
Take a breather. Take a deep breath.
Breather, okay? I don't know what you're talking about.
Austin's real 9/11 take.
Back in his sports phase.
Oh, I remember that.
This ain't build a bitch.
That was a rough phase for me.
God, were you depressed?
Rough for me too. What? When I look like that?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. What a
so rude of me.
What a fucking insane thing to say, dude. But yes.
Okay, you just giggled at a fucking plane hitting the Twin Towers, okay?
Okay, but that's one is personal. The other one is like a fucking complex situation that was horrific tragedy, but that was a consequence of like
3,000 people died, and this is me just insulting you when you're not.
I know,
even
one
look
is
like that
personal. The
anymore.
other one is literally like, you know, an issue that took place like fucking 20 plus years ago, dude.
What? Wait, this was like 10 years? At what point? Wait, so at what point can you start making fun of tragedies? Like, at what point?
Are you comparing my childhood to 9/11? Oh my god!
Brother, dude, we went through a phase, and I kind of blame you for this, where we were both painting our nails. And like, I'm not like, I think painting nails is fine, but like, I like went through an emo phase, but I was like 27 years old. And it just looked so, I was wearing like tight pants. It was just a very rough period of time for me.
You were dressed so poorly. I mean, I was
very rough.
I was fat as fuck,
dude.
What is that facial hair? It's just not good.
I
man.
showed pictures of myself to Christian,
It's
and
not good at all, and neither of us were looking good.
Oh, dude, I showed pictures of Christian, myself to Christian, and you know when your significant other, like, he can't even lie. He's like, Austin, you looked like shit. He's like, I would have not dated you if you looked like that. That's what he told me.
Yeah,
it's just really, really bad. Like I've never heard of somebody glowing up at 30, but I feel like I did.
Also, the clothing was all you, baby. That was not me at all. Okay,
You
I don't
tried.
know.
You did.
I tried my best to make you into a man.
You did.
that dressed up normally, and you were not.
I still have those tendencies. Like, I've worn the shit out of this aloe set.
Yeah, you really do wear that. Austin's hair plugs took well. That's crazy.
Hair plugs? That's
Dude,
crazy. I haven't had a hair
chat,
transplant.
My chat is so fucking
It's
annoying.
good though. Thank you. That means my hair looks better now than it did.
Yeah.
I just let
let's
it grow.
get back to
Let's
get back to the story, because people are fucking.
They're
we're
hungry.
hemorrhaging viewership right now. People, ever since
What
you
are you
sat down.
What are you talking about? It stayed pretty steady.
No, it was that it was going up, and then you sat down. We stared talking not about Iran for a brief moment, and people were like, "Fuck this!"
Do you want me to leave?
No, it's
It's a
fine.
total of $1.7 billion. The same $1.7 billion he told Congress was frozen Iranian assets. Now, there was a back channel to Tehran through Valerie Jarrett, active for 2012 to 2024. This was after he left office. So, you know, it was almost like a shadow government. He also sent pellets of cash in a plane to Iran. Now, why would you send money to Iran knowing that they are building a nuclear weapon and they are the leading sponsor of terrorism?
Well, they were complying
Barack
with it.
Obama was a
They were, yes.
They were complying.
They were
with it. You send
complying with
them
the deal
it's
with the
part of deal.
JCPOA.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were unfreezing assets less than Trump, by the way, much less than Trump.
Yeah.
Not that I have an issue with that. Like, I think it's their money. They should, like, the fact that we have Austin is a little lad in the background maxing. I don't know what that means.
Christian, you knock it off before I don't know what I'm going to do to you.
Whoa, chill, bro.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Anyway, it was successful until Trump ripped it apart for no fucking reason.
Great statesman who left America much safer. I wouldn't put Donald Trump in the same paragraph. The reality is when President Obama left, because of the great efforts of people like Valerie Jarrett, we had 97% of the enriched uranium out. The reality is we didn't have 13 American service members dead. The reality is we never had gas go up from $2.30 to $4. The reality is we did not give China more role in the region. Let me finish, Maria. I'll let you finish.
Okay,
we didn't give China
on,
more
bro.
role in the region. We did
ass.
not give the IRGC a more hardline regime in there. You know why? Because Obama actually did his homework. He actually tried to engage in statesmanship. He got China, Russia, the entire European allies on board.
It is pretty crazy. Like, look, I'm not, I have a different attitude about how things should have gone regardless. But from the perspective of like pro-America, it is a pretty remarkable achievement that this was a multilateral commitment that brought Russia, China, all of the European partners on board. We got unprecedented access to Iranian nuclear facilities, which, by the way, Israel used to their advantage to like assassinate Iranian academics over and over again, which is fucking unbelievable. God, it's so evil. But yeah, it was proof that like the diplomatic process would clearly be the successful way to deal with Iran. And Donald Trump just came in and was like, fuck it. Israel doesn't like this. This is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And many Democrats at the time did not really complain about it. Let's be real, because they were also very pro-Israel.
Question, I apologize for this distract, but why didn't, there was Biden was in between. So why didn't he come in and maybe perhaps he had 4 years of foreign policy that he perhaps could have redone that relationship.
Who has the bulwark video of friend of the show Ben Rhodes talking about this exact giving an answer to this exact question? Ben Rhodes went on the bulwark recently. Friend of the show Ben Rhodes, who was a part of the JCPOA as a national security advisor to Barack Hussein Obama. And he had an answer for that. I mean, I also interviewed.
Does it have something to do with the fact that Israel didn't want that to happen?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that definitely played a role.
Well, I mean, I'm starting to get the sense that perhaps they have other intentions with the region that perhaps aren't to the benefit of American foreign policy.
Here it is. Let's take a look at what he had to. He was not very nice about Joe Biden.
Our bet was you open this up, you let Americans travel down there, you let Americans invest there. This place that's 90 miles from Florida is going to change.
Wait, no, this is about Cuba, chatter. This is not about JCPOA. This is not the one we're looking
so
for.
Horny, they just saw him and linked the clip. They didn't read the context.
Didn't he talk about JCPOA as well? This is about Cuba. He said Biden is chicken shit on Cuba, and like.
Our bet was you open this up, you let Americans travel down there, you let Americans invest there. This place that's 90 miles from Florida is going to change. Cubans' lives will get better, and then ultimately, we're not going to be the ones to determine it. We're not going to be the ones to pick the next leader of Cuba, but we think that will work better than what we've been doing for 60 years. Trump came in, he, over time, with the urging of Marco Rubio in the first term, basically rolled back all of the opening in terms of like travel and, investment and things like that. They kept the embassies open. So the diplomatic relations piece remained. And then over time, they squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. Biden was a chicken shit and was afraid to go back to the Obama policy because he was afraid of Bob Menendez. So we somehow got the Trump policy through Joe Biden's administration. In the same way that Biden was afraid to come back into the JCPOA because he was afraid of Bob Menendez and FDD for criticizing him. So
that's great. Good thing we knew that Bob Menendez was a great moral arbiter, as we saw, and it was important to kind of let him.
Literally, that's what happened. But the point is that now Cubans are suffering more than they ever have, I think, in their history. They have because
basically the same energy for Cuba exists for the JCPOA. The reason why Biden didn't do shit on the JCPOA was because he was chicken shit and also was unbelievably pro-Israel.
Right.
Okay. and has always been unbelievably pro-Israel. And that's precisely the reason why he did not act on the previous negotiations that took place while he was the vice president of Barack Hussein Obama. And, you know, what's the reason?
Was he afraid that public sentiment was like that again, doing the liberal thing where they're afraid to stand for anything, so they capitulate to the position that Obama made a bad deal and Trump ripped it up?
I mean, I don't know how much of that is like a false assessment that they're making and how much of that is because they like it. But with Joe Biden, I would say he liked it. He liked it. He is super pro-Israel. He is ideologically committed to the Zionist project. A lot more than I would say other presidents were. That's the reason why he did the bear hug policy, obviously. Like, he was totally attached to everything that Israel was doing. And of course, what did Israel do to return that favor? They called him an old fucking piece of shit who sucks dick and did everything in their power to get Trump elected. And they have never stopped saying Biden sucked for the one time where he stopped one transfer of 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. That was the biggest crime against Israel, even though he kept setting up red lines and Israel kept violating it, and he just kept rewarding Israel for violating that over and over again.
With getting Iran on a path to not having a nuclear weapon. All Trump did is listen to Netanyahu. That's his entire foreign policy. And you know what? I resent the fact that Israel is going to tell the United States what to do. The American president should call the shots in this country.
And, well, the American president should call the shots in this country.
Oh, I saw this. This is really funny.
It's true.
I found this in a TikTok comment section. They found Israel's strongest soldier in America.
But you and your colleagues are trying to clip his wings right now with this war powers vote. I agree. The president is in charge. But look, a lot of the things that you just said are just not true, Congressman.
Oh, you're trying to clip his wings with the war powers vote.
What is she trying to say?
You mean congressional approval, which is, constitutionally mandated for the president to engage in fucking wars that we just completely have decided is irrelevant post global war on terror. I mean, even before then, but still.
So what's so interesting here is that, Netanyahu has been trying to get U.S. presidents since like Bush to attack Iran, and he's presented them with to attack Iran. They did it for Bush, Obama, and Biden, and Trump is the first one that actually said yes. John Kerry talked about that.
Yeah. No, he's been trying to get this. He's been trying to get this in motion for many, many years. What's interesting is Amos Hochstein yesterday went on the Sunday shows. Amos Hochstein is he served in the IDF and did not serve in the American military. Served in the IDF. Was one of the key architects of Biden's Middle Eastern policy alongside Brett McGurk. Both Brett McGurk and Amos Hochstein have said that they were preparing to strike Iran. That Brett McGurk came out in the last round of bombing campaigns that Trump was implementing in the 12-day war and said, oh, this is our training. We did this. Like, we trained for this for years.
So they've just been preparing
because we've been preparing. We wanted to do this. So, much praise to Donald Trump for doing this. And Amos Hochstein came out yesterday and literally said the same shit. Basically, it was like, well, we were gearing up for this. We probably, if we got a second term, we would have done this ourselves. So anyone that tries to come at any of you for criticizing the Biden era foreign policy, just remember they're bullshitting. They don't know the full facts, or they also like what Israel is doing, what America is doing, what Trump is doing. They're just too embarrassed to admit it. They don't like it on the aesthetic side.
People are too busy at brunch.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, we have to look at this realistically. And President Obama sent money to the Iranians. And what did they do? They resumed their buildup of
That's not true.
Enrichment.
That's not true.
Yeah,
Not true.
What's not true?
Not true.
Yeah. Trump is the one who ripped apart the JCPOA, which is why Iran started enriching uranium once again. never to really build a nuclear weapon, which I think is a failure on the Iranian side. But, you know, I'm not Iranian. I have no say in this process. They should have just developed nukes instantly. As soon as Trump ripped apart the JCPOA, Iran should have been like, okay, nuke time. Sorry, we tried. It didn't work. If they had nukes, the region would be more stable. If they had nukes, this wouldn't be happening. Currently, sometimes you got to play hardball in an effort to force America's hand and restrain America that way. So, do the people on Fox News know anything? No, I mean, these are obviously facts that they don't want to address at all because it undermines their
just
idiotic agenda. Yes, they're trying to present Trump as doing the right thing here, and it's quite difficult because he's not doing the right thing and he's failing spectacularly.
It's not true. What specifically about that sentence is not true?
There was a deal that we reached to get 97% of the enriched uranium out. In the process of that, Iran had certain assets that were Iranian assets, wasn't our money, that was unfrozen. And that was a deal that China, Russia, France, UK, Canada, the United States all agreed to. And then you had Netanyahu come in and try to torpedo it, and AIPAC tried to torpedo that deal. We were on a path to having a denuclear Iran, but what happened is it wasn't in Netanyahu's interest and AIPAC's interest, and they've dragged us into another war in the Middle East. They've hurt American people, and the American people are tired of it. They want people who are going to be Team America. They want people who are going to bring gas prices down here and care about our nation and get us out of these wars. And that's why Obama won. He was against the Iraq war. That's why he was on a path to normalization in terms of getting Iran to be denuclear, and had the whole world on our side. And AIPAC, Netanyahu tore that up.
Relax. Congressman, it doesn't change the fact that 10 presidents before President Trump
I'm having
all
trouble
said the
hearing
same
you.
thing.
I think there's some connection issue.
Congressman.
Now I can hear you.
Congressman, it doesn't change the fact that 10 presidents before President Trump all said the same thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They are the leading state sponsor of terrorism.
I wonder what the common thread is.
Have a nuclear weapon.
One president delivered, and that was Barack Obama.
No, that's not true. Not one of them did anything about it.
Barack Obama is the only one who delivered.
Congressman, you're talking fantasy.
97%
Obama
out.
did nothing.
You're talking fantasy. What do you mean? It's just the truth, man. It's just what happened. These people are insane. Like, they get so mad when you just say the truth. It's unbelievable.
Does she actually?
That's just what fucking happened,
Does
Maria.
she actually believe that this didn't happen, or it's not the truth? Like, I'm convinced. Is she just a propagandist? Or
the Republican argument has always been, oh, they lied. Okay, the Republican argument leans into inventing an alternative reality, one that does not exist.
Yeah.
They'll say, oh, well, you don't have any assurances. You don't have any guarantees. It's like, no, you're wrong, actually. They did, because Iran allowed literal fucking CCTV footage 24/7 to be transmitted to the International Atomic Energy Agency that was almost single-handedly designed to monitor Iranian nuclear facilities. Not only did they allow that level of access, unprecedented level of access, they also would allow investigators from this International Energy Agency, Atomic Energy Agency, to go into these Iranian facilities and check personally. Okay? So it is ridiculous to say that Iran was like secretly still developing nuclear arms. They weren't. And the only reason why they went back to enriching uranium beyond the civilian levels was so that they can get America back to the negotiations table to engage in sanctions relief once again. Because Donald Trump didn't just rip apart the JCPOA and said it no longer works. He also added secondary sanctions to the state of Iran once again. So what is Iran supposed to do? Of course they're going to fucking enrich uranium again because they have to bring America back to the negotiations process.
This is stupid.
Yeah. Also, here's the other proof that Iran never developed nukes. America's bombing Iran right now because guess what? If Iran had nukes, America would not be fucking bombing a nuclear armed nation. Here's evidence. Here's further evidence of that reality. Is America bombing North Korea?
No, I was just gonna bring that up.
They're not. So obviously, when you have fucking nukes, America doesn't bomb you because all of a sudden you are a part of the MAD policy, okay? Mutual assured destruction policy. So clearly, Iran doesn't have fucking nukes.
About it. You're talking fantasy. Obama did nothing about
fantasy.
it other than send money to the
Obama
Iranians.
got the whole world. He didn't send money to them. That's just factually false. He unfroze Iranian assets, but he had the whole world behind us. How many countries do we have behind us now? Obama had Russia, China, Canada, UK, France.
Oh, she's going to try to say, do you want those people on your side?
And they lost 97%.
Congressman, now you lost me. Saying Obama had Russia and China in their corner.
See?
I think you know better than most that Russia and China are not in our corner. Congressman, we will continue this discussion, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much, Ro Khanna.
Low-hanging
Thank you, Maria.
God, we just celebrate stupidity, man. We celebrate fucking stupidity so much. Daniel Dale, our fact checker, Daniel Dale, he's back at it. He says Trump said Friday that the Strait of Hormuz situation was over. It very obviously wasn't. Trump said Friday that Iran agreed to never close the Strait of Hormuz again. The next day, Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz again. Trump said yesterday that Vance isn't going to Pakistan for the talks. Officials quickly said Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz. Officials quickly said Vance is going to Pakistan for the talks. Trump said this morning that Vance had left and would be there tonight, Islamabad time. Officials quickly said Vance is actually leaving tomorrow. Trump said Iran has no military anymore and that everything is gone. Iran continues to have military with destructive capabilities. Trump said the Pope issued a statement saying Iran can have nuclear weapons. That never happened. That'd be kind of funny though if the Pope was like, yeah, I think Iran should have a nuclear weapon is really funny. Trump said nobody expected Iran to retaliate against Gulf countries. That was widely expected. Trump said the only planes the U.S. has really lost in the war have been to friendly fire. He said this at the same time, at the same event at which he had spoken at length about what had happened after Iran shot down a U.S. plane. Story on President's ever-growing number of false claims on big and small matters related to the war and his triumph with claims about supposed Iranian concessions that we just can't assume are based in reality.
It's gotten to a point that's so ridiculous that I can't even follow it. Is that crazy?
There was an analyst that said that only 13% of what Trump has said so far since Operation Epstein's Fury began has been true.
Yeah, it's like so like I don't even think he can track it.
I've said this before. Trump is the worst person to go to if you want to understand what's about to happen because he doesn't know what he's going to say next.
Like he had no idea. Like completely no idea.
It's awesome. And all of it at the behest of money molestation, which is Donald Trump's favorite activity, molesting the money. There's Representative Chip Roy introducing a Mamdani Act, measures against Marxism's dangerous adherents and noxious Islamists.
Oh, God.
It allows for deportation and denaturalization of immigrants involved with socialist, communist, Chinese communists specifically, Marxist or Islamic fundamentalist doctrines.
Like what, healthcare?
Yeah.
Socialist policies like healthcare and affordability.
Yeah. That's this again is a ridiculous bill. It's obviously not going to go through. It's so stupid. What is this? I'm running for election in fierce advocacy of working class Americans. I'm not running from the left. I'm running from the bottom. I'm running for re-election in fierce advocacy of working class Americans. That's my North Star. Always has been. Always will be. What does this mean? I don't know why you guys showed me this. I don't understand what this has to do with anything. What is this same guy who says Islam is an existential threat to the U.S. says he wants to ethnically cleanse massive numbers of white Americans? San Antonio U.S. Representative Chip Roy says he wants to ethnic cleanse white progressives. Tell you what, I do want to.
Oh, my God.
I tell you what, I do want to ethnic cleanse by deporting white progressive Democrats with a special bonus for rich ones with an Ivy League degree. I really do not like those people. Awesome. He's woke. He wants, dude, these guys inevitably end up whipping around back to JD Pond, you know?
Yeah.
They inevitably end up whipping around back to permanent first world genocide where they're like, yep, that's right. I hate those I hate those rich whites. They must be punished. The suburbs The suburbs will hurt. They will feel the pain. We must allow the third world to rise up in arms. Yeah, Pol Pot 2, let's go. Yeah, oh my God, that's right. He fucking went Khmer Rouge with them, with that policy. He's like, anybody that wears glasses is a goddamn nerd. We will send them to the wall and we will shoot them and kill them.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Oh, speaking of, have you seen this?
Yeah, I saw that they
Israeli soldiers destroys Jesus statue in
Can
Lebanon.
has condemned an Israeli soldier who hit a statue of Jesus with a sledgehammer in southern Lebanon. The statue was mounted on a crucifix outside a church in a Christian village that had been occupied by Israeli troops. Mr. Netanyahu has said he regrets any hurt caused to Christian believers in Lebanon.
This story pisses me off because it's like, bro, they've been bombing churches, they've been killing Christians and Muslims too, and bombing mosques as well. But this is like, I guess, the symbolism. Like, symbolism is more consequential for Christians than the act of actual murder of both Christians and Muslims in both Gaza and Lebanon. Like, I'm glad that people are getting pissed off. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, destroying the statue is a bridge too far. It's time for a moral reckoning. Destruction of Jesus statues should serve as a moral wake-up call for the IDF, says Times of Israel. Like,
that was the one. That was
this is what did it, man. This is what did it.
Moral wake-up call.
Bro, you got the fucking cattle, Mike Fuckabee, running around being like, oh, well, Israel gets to do whatever it wants. The Greater Israel Project, Israel. And nobody lets a fucking peep. But like the one statue gets clapped and everyone's like, this is unbelievable. I mean, how could they do
around
this?
the world? Well, it comes as the Israeli military has warned residents in southern Lebanon not to move around near border areas.
Christians care about this because they think it confirms their blood libel. Yeah, except if you want fucking blood libel confirmation, they've been killing Christians too. They've been bombing churches. How is this? How does this? They bombed a synagogue. Dude, they bombed a fucking synagogue in Iran.
Yeah.
Like, they bomb everything. It's so stupid. They don't give a fuck about anything.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense to me that, like, this is what got so many people animated. I mean, I'll take it. You know, I'll take anything at this point. Anything that causes people to flip and just be like, we got to restrain Israel. This is unacceptable. I will take it at this point. But it just also blows my mind that, like, this is the one thing that really agitated people, and not like, I don't know, murdering a bunch of fucking Lebanese Christians alongside Lebanese Shias, alongside Christians and Muslims in Gaza, and blowing up fucking mosques and blowing up churches nonstop.
And not to return to dozens of villages, despite the agreement of a ceasefire that Israel has ordered its army to use full force against what it calls imminent threats in southern Lebanon, and says its troops will continue to occupy the area. Let's talk to our Middle East correspondent, Ilan Nell, who's in Jerusalem for us now. Ilan, tell us more then about what this soldier did to the statue of Jesus, because we've heard very strong condemnation.
Yeah, this is also because people got really pissed off about this. Israel was like, oh, we're so sorry. We're actually investigating the soldier. It's like, bro, that's like... Soldiers
investigating the soldier. He's on camera, isn't he?
Yeah, well, yes, but they always have to do the fake, like, we have to conduct an investigation.
Got it.
To see how this could have happened. I don't know. Maybe because maybe the soldier thought it was valid after actually killing a fuck ton of Lebanese Christian people already. You know, perhaps that's why he thought it wouldn't be a big deal to fucking blow up the Jesus statue on top of everything else.
Of that soldier's actions from the Prime Minister, from the Israeli military, various other politicians as well in Israel.
Yeah, so the Israeli Prime Minister was quick to come out with his comments in English on his X account. I think understanding very well the international damage that this could do, this photo that's been shared widely on social media over the past couple of days. The Israeli army has confirmed it's a soldier who is at the moment in southern Lebanon, or has been in southern Lebanon in recent days. He's holding what appears to be a sledgehammer or an axe poised just over the face of the statue of Jesus on a crucifix that's been toppled. The understanding is that this is in the village of Double, which is in southern Lebanon, a Maronite Christian village. This was a family's own shrine on the edge of their land, at the edge of the village. It's not clear exactly at the moment what damage was ultimately done, but the Israeli...
I, for one, can't believe that the army of a ethno-religious supremacist nation that routinely punishes and kills and subjugates both Christians and Muslims in the region would do such a thing. I am shocked. Okay, I can't believe that the anti-Christian, anti-Muslim forces would do such an anti-Christian act. How could they?
It's just par for the course, right? They're killing everybody.
Yeah,
they're killing everybody.
Yeah, it's just like
because Christians and Muslims live in Lebanon. And they're not just they're just indiscriminately bombing. So obviously
that, but also on top of that, they've done something even more insane, like straight up Nazi shit. They occupied southern Lebanon, and then they released statements to the southern Lebanese telling the Christian villages not to hide Shia Muslims in their villages, which is literally what the fucking Nazis did to Jews. Like, it's so crazy.
That's crazy.
That they released a statement before this. One, they released a statement saying we're going to do to southern Lebanon what we did to Gaza, which, is an admission of the heinous war crimes that they committed in Gaza. But it goes unpunished, so they don't see any reason to even hide it. And then two, they went to southern Lebanese Christian villages and said, if you are hiding Muslims in your floorboards, like, you will also be in our crosshairs.
That's crazy.
The Israeli army is saying that they will help the Christian community there to repair this statue. The foreign minister of Israel, Gideon Sa'ar, came out and said that he apologized for this incident and to every Christian who had been hurt by it in their feelings. So you can see that this has really sort of,
Yeah. You executed an elderly Christian woman in Gaza who was simply trying to find a restroom and then sniped her daughter in the head for tending to her corpse. This is who you are. These are your values, not an aberration. They did this. Yeah. And then they bombed the fucking church, by the way. After an IDF sniper killed 2 women inside of a Gaza church, they also bombed that same church, which is so ridiculous.
Had a big effect, and that the local priest there told the BBC in Beirut that this was a desecration and, really extremely upsetting for the Christian community in southern Lebanon, in this wide area, which is currently occupied by Israeli forces, thousands of Israeli forces on the ground there. They see this as being a stronghold for the Shiite Muslim group Hezbollah.
And Yolande, what's the wider context of what's happening in Lebanon with that fragile ceasefire?
It's clearly a doctor's statue, you anti-Semite. Yeah, clearly. Who could forget the famous doctor?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Fire.
So some developments in the past few hours, because you remember that when that ceasefire was declared by the US last week between Israel and Lebanon, with Hezbollah saying that it would stick to it and crediting Iran with getting that deal across the line. Well, the White House also said that it was ready to host the leaders of Israel and Lebanon for historic peace talks between these two countries that have technically remained at war since the State of Israel was created back in 1948. Now, the Lebanese president, Joseph Aoun, says that there will be a Lebanese delegation that is sent along to talks, and that will be headed by a former Lebanese ambassador to
Austin has seen the Dr. Jihad video.
I know. I called him Dr. Jihad last
US. He has said that the goals of Lebanon in those talks will be to end Israel's occupation and to deploy the army of Lebanon right up to the borderline. Israel has previously been saying that its goals in any kind of long-term peace deal will be to make sure that there is the disarmament of Hezbollah, and it also wants to decide finally that the border between Israel and its neighbor Lebanon.
Okay, Yolande, thank you very much indeed.
The US has confirmed that a second round of talks between Lebanon and Israel will take place on Thursday. Lebanon's fragile 10-day ceasefire with Israel has allowed...
Glad that we have our Lebanese correspondent.
I was going to say, these talks wouldn't be necessary if the United States would just be like, hey, don't
cut
do
it
that.
out.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. Also, these talks are bullshit too, because like
it doesn't.
The Lebanese government has no power. The Lebanese government is infinitely more predisposed with like trying to restrain the only standing military force that they actually have that's willing to defend the Lebanese borders, which is Hezbollah.
Yeah.
And the Lebanese army just retreats.
Well, there's also no good faith negotiation you can have if your ultimate goal is a failed state.
Yeah,
Right?
and not only
I
that,
wrong?
but Israel has already occupied Lebanese territory. They took over southern Lebanese territory.
Yeah.
And have established a safety corridor, as they like to call it, encroaching further and further into Lebanese territory. Some are saying that Israel is also now taking the water line as well, which is where the Lebanese gas fields are. So they're now going to control the Lebanese gas fields on top of everything else. So there is nothing that the Lebanese government could say or do in this circumstance because they have no power. They have no power because they're not supposed to have any power in this process. They were brought to heel by Western forces deliberately so that Israel could do exactly this shit whenever they felt the need to do so. Hezbollah has been the only force to restrain Israel because they are the only force that can militarily stop Israel from further encroaching into Lebanese territory. Yeah, the IDF is taking some sort of action after the Taraweeh photo, the soldier taking a sledgehammer to the statue of Christ, but violent humiliation is a central part of what its military does. Here's an Israeli female soldier posting photos of herself from a southern home. What hurts the most is in this image is that it makes the loss unbearably harsh. Here we're talking about a house that still has its greenery, still has the life of its family, but they alone are the forcibly absent ones. They are forbidden from returning while a soldier from the occupation army enters the place, picks the produce, cooks and laughs as if the house has no owners, as if the 55 villages banned to the people of the South haven't been emptied to their inhabitants, and as if all of this devastation isn't enough. The scene is humiliating because it sums up everything, uprooting people from their land and then turning their homes and gardens into a free-for-all space for the invaders. This is occupation and deliberate insult to the people's memory, dignity, and their inherent right to return to what they planted with their own hands. You know what's also additionally crazy about this? If this was happening on Saturday, these people would get punished. The Israeli army would punish them for not abiding, not keeping kosher, and actually cooking food for the rest of the military on the day of Sabbath.
Really?
Which is crazy. Yes, the Israeli military has literally offered worse punishments to people who have gone into the kitchens in the military to make hot dogs on a fucking Saturday than they have to the 6 rapists at the Sidi Taman concentration camp for raping Palestinian prisoners to death on camera. They were caught on camera.
Yeah.
How fucking insane is that?
Horrific.
Yeah, here it is. IDF soldier sent to 20 days prison for making hot dogs on Shabbat. Anyway.
My grandfather's rolling in his grave.
Need to return
When he was
home
cremated,
and bury
but,
their dead.
whatever you do with.
And despite the ceasefire, Israeli troops have continued to occupy territory deep in the south of Lebanon. Today, the Israeli military has warned residents to stay away from dozens of villages.
Oh, see, this is the forward defense area. This also happens to be the gas fields that Lebanon has.
Along the border, publishing for the first time its deployment line inside Lebanese territory. The forward defence line stretches east to west, almost 6 miles into Lebanon. Hezbollah, prescribed by the UK as a terrorist group, has fired.
Yeah, these guys, Israel is the only country on the planet that always has a defense with a strong offense, you know?
Right.
Oh, in order to establish defense, we have to take more and more of your territory. Sorry.
Hundreds of rockets from southern Lebanon to northern Israel. Our foreign affairs correspondent, Porrick O'Brien, travelled to the southern town of Bazaria, close to the Litani River. He was only allowed into the area with Hezbollah's permission.
We spent 2 days in southern Lebanon trying to unpack the shorthand that is Hezbollah's stronghold. These are their heartlands. We went to their funerals. We surveyed destroyed neighborhoods.
This one shell, 5 or 6 meters down.
They may be military.
I think this is also why I think people get so mad when I say like, you know, the shit that I've said about Hezbollah, where I'm like, they are a paramilitary group with a separate political party that's in the Lebanese parliament, by the way. But people get so mad when you don't just say like, they're fucking terrorists, they're terrorists. How dare you say that? It's like, because it's just the truth. What I'm saying about Hezbollah is the truth. They are a paramilitary organization. There's a separate military that happens to be the only standing military that will fight back against Israel, that has a literal fucking political party in the Lebanese parliament. It's just the truth. It doesn't matter. You could just like say terrorism, terrorism, terrorism all day, every day. But this is the real terrorism happening here is what Israel is doing to southern Lebanon. Okay?
Militarily weak, but for these people with this war, Hezbollah has more reason to exist now, not less.
Western perspectives on this shit is so fucking insane to me, because they'll be like, "Oh, well, they killed these guys that were like affiliated with Hezbollah. They killed these journalists that were affiliated with Hezbollah." It's like, that's what is illegal in that situation is killing a journalist, not an affiliation of a journalist with Hezbollah. Okay, it's like saying, "Oh, well, we killed this random hospital worker in Israel because they voted for Benjamin Netanyahu." Okay, they voted for the Likud party. The fuck are you talking about? That's not how this works. You can't just like assassinate on their own fucking territory random people for expressing their political preference when they're not an armed militant engaging in an act of combat against, and even when they're engaging in an act of combat against an invading country, it's still the invading country that is in the wrong for invading this other sovereign territory. Anyway, it's very frustrating that like we have designed these rhetorical tricks to just like shut off our fucking minds, where we're like, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Are these groups created as a result of the Israel's aggression in the region to begin with? Isn't this what this is like where it all comes back to? Is the territorial ambitions and aggression in the region?
Hezbollah did not exist before Israel invaded Lebanon, okay, and occupied Lebanon.
That's the whole point. That's the whole thing. Why can't people understand this?
Yeah.
My grandfather was talking about this for decades.
Our first stop, the town of Jibchit. According to the mayor, there were 40 Israeli airstrikes here in the last 6 weeks. When the war started, people left. Now with the fragile ceasefire, they're returning. The mayor is a physics lecturer at a university, but these days constantly fielding calls from concerned residents.
هلا إذا كان في شيء من الأمن والأمان والشمولية فحتما خلال اليومين بتكون نسبة 100% بتصير حتما.
The Israelis said they were targeting Hezbollah militants here, and many of them were killed. But they also hit the generators that were providing electricity to the town.
Oh.
Like, again, you can't. Like, they are Lebanese people living inside of Lebanese territory, going about their Lebanese lives, okay? When you are a country that decides to bomb a sovereign nation's territory, it's not just the generators that are fucked up. You can't just, like, decide to kill people and invade a foreign nation state. Like, it's just, of course people are going to fucking fight back. It's so ridiculous. And what's crazier is that for 15 months, when the initial ceasefire, the fake ceasefire was implemented after the Gaza fake ceasefire, Israel killed thousands of Lebanese people over and over again. Hezbollah never retaliated in that process. So the fact that these guys are like, oh, I can't believe that like Hezbollah started lobbing bombs into Israel, that's why we had to do this, is also bullshit, because Israel never stopped ceasing its fire. Only one side actually ceased its fire. It was Hezbollah. Israel never stopped bombing Lebanon.
And the mosque.
هذا المسجد له حيثية بقلوب أهل البلد.
Because they
Hezbollah was born as
putting up
resistance
the
to
illusion
Israeli
of good
occupation
faith,
in
right?
1982.
The illusion of good
But it's not
faith.
even
DNA.
the only reason why people think there's any sort of illusion of good faith is because Western media is so complicit and doesn't cover this shit adequately. They just never cover it or they rarely offer any coverage to it when it's like it's an afterthought when Israel continues killing people.
So they
in
just
Gaza.
keep reporting that there's a ceasefire, but they don't talk about the fact that they continue to break the ceasefire.
Yeah, they'll cover it as like
it.
Israel engaged in defensive acts against like Hezbollah militancy today and killed like 5 people or whatever. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, every time they do that, they're also killing a shit ton of children too.
Of these places, the mayor says even this repair is part of the
right It's right here.
Yep.
All
Those
right,
bulldozers.
Peace out.
Austin is
People coming back to their homes.
leaving everybody. Say bye to Austin.
Bye, y'all. Take care now.
My food is here, so I have to. I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna eat my food. Anyway, bye, Austin.
Peace out. Thanks for letting me stay.
Of course. Of course. I got it. Oh. Yeah. All right, we're going to get back to close-up cam. And also, here it is. It's true that Israel's been bombing the South for the past 1.5 years, but people argue that Hezbollah are responding after the killing of Khamenei gave a reason for Israel to escalate. Yeah, but except once again, Israel never stopped bombing Lebanon. If Israel had actually kept up their end of the ceasefire, I suspect that Hezbollah would have much less interest in escalating against Israel, right? But Israel never stopped bombing southern Lebanon. And they never do. No, that's not Austin's jacket. It's my jacket. Guys, it's not Austin's jacket. It's my fucking jacket. Oh my God, you guys are so annoying. Nervous Nellies over here. Holy shit. Cheyenne El Hawk, thank you for the 50.
What are you resisting? We're only allowed into these areas with Hezbollah's permission and oversight. But here we are more free to talk to whoever we want. So we meet sisters-in-law Nahal and Fatima. They stayed here through the 40 strikes. So how many wars have you stayed here for? Did this war feel different than all the others? People deeply distrust the Lebanese army's ability to protect them, even more so now. The idea that they could or should disarm Hezbollah, unthinkable. Israel destroyed part of this town. But remember, the townspeople want the destruction of Israel. Hezbollah is a militia that targets civilians in Israel. Hezbollah is a political party with members of parliament and members in the cabinet. Hezbollah is an Iran-backed group with support amongst the Shia community. But Hezbollah is also a movement. It's a frame of mind, which leads you to the question, can you really bomb that out of someone? From Jibchit, we drove south towards the southern swathe of Lebanon where the Israelis are positioned, over the Litani River. The bridge had been bombed by the Israelis, but locals repaired it. And to the coastal city of Sur or Tyre, one of the safer places to get a handle on the geography of this conflict, on pause for now. The Israeli security zone, or occupied area, is delineated by the so-called yellow line. And from here on the coast in Tyre or Sur, you can safely put eyes on it. The yellow line basically runs along the headland there behind me. In between that and the Israeli border, 50+ villages and towns. And one by one, the Israelis are demolishing them. If that sounds familiar, it is. They did exactly the same thing in Gaza. The Israelis say they're dismantling Hezbollah infrastructure, making it impossible for them to fire at the country, thus the sterile buffer zone. Finally, to the town of Bazari. Today, the funerals of several people from here who were killed on the 8th of March. They were in Beirut at the time. It is at these funerals that neighborhoods nail their colors to the mast, and the color is Hezbollah's yellow. The funerals today include 4 women, 1 teenager, and 3 fighters. The thing about it is these communities don't make that distinction everyone is a member of the resistance. Some people here did agree to talk to us like Mustafa. Why did Hezbollah get involved?
Yeah,
Why did Hezbollah,
I will tell you,
as some people say, drag this country into war now? For him, Israel violated a ceasefire in 2024. The conflict didn't stop then and won't now. The last 6 weeks of war mean the anger and grief are acute here, and Hezbollah will weaponize it.
It's just crazy to go to the funeral of like a bunch of teenagers and civilians that Israel killed alongside 3 or 4 militants and ask them like, well, don't you feel like you guys brought this on yourselves? I don't know, man. Kind of feels like Israel is this like an unstoppable force of evil.
Question is, how do you disarm that?
All right, reverse the roles. What do you think would happen if a Channel 4 journalist went to the funeral of like an Israeli civilian that was killed in like rocket fires or something and literally put up a fucking microphone to the face of like mourning family members and said, don't you feel like Israel's unbelievable appetite for bloodshed, unlimited appetite for bloodshed is what caused this civilian to die? Which, by the way, would unironically be a much more correct question to ask, even if it's blunt, than asking it to the fucking Lebanese people, which Israel has destroyed and actively tried to murder and has murdered for fucking decades at this point. What do you think would happen to that person? They wouldn't be able to leave Israel, number one. They'd be fucking probably killed before they even leave Israel. And if they somehow got out of Israel, their career will be over.
Porrick O'Brien there. Now, we did ask the Israeli Defense Forces for a comment about the strikes in Jibchit. They did not provide us with a statement. Gresh.
Thanks, Jackie. Well, I've been speaking to the UN's humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, for today's forecast. We talked about the humanitarian situation in Sudan, as well as politics closer to home. But we began by talking about Lebanon and the scale of the displacement of people there.
But look, right now, 1 in 5 people in Lebanon is displaced. As I crossed into Damascus a few weeks ago, that week, 200,000 Lebanese people had crossed into Syria. And so the needs are huge. Destruction, displacement, and you've got populations going back now to see if it's safe to go back, and it's not.
So what about the way that war has been conducted? Because in many ways, Israel seemed to be doing in Lebanon what it had done or learning from what it had done in Gaza.
Well, that's a big concern, is when you hear that same rhetoric being used about reducing Lebanon to rubble. And literally, I mean, Israeli ministers saying, we'll do to you what we did to Gaza. Now, I've been to Gaza twice in the last year and a bit, and I know what that means. And so it's chilling to hear it. But it's part of this wider context of impunity and lawlessness in the world, where you've got some of the most powerful people in the world, the most powerful person in the world, threatening countries, threatening to wipe out civilizations. And we're asking everyone, imploring everyone really to get back to, it's not sexy, but international humanitarian law.
Israel always says it does respect international law. Does it?
Well, I think a lot of the actions we've seen in both Gaza and Lebanon would not be lawful. And that is ultimately a matter for the courts, the ICC, the ICJ. It needs to be proven. It's not just for me to come along and chuck allegations like that around, but we're seeing all the time the effect of the action.
What did you make of the incident that happened recently in Lebanon, where the ambulance workers were apparently deliberately targeted at least 3 times, where different waves of ambulance corps went to help each other and each one was hit? Now Israel again says ambulances are used to transport Hezbollah weapons. They don't provide evidence for it, but that's what they say. Does that ever become a justification for that kind of attack on ambulance workers?
So there is no justification for hitting ambulances and health workers. Ambulance workers, health workers should never be a target. And it is, it's really disturbing. We know about from elsewhere, the double tap. But now this new lexicon of talking about a treble tap or a quadruple tap, this is part of the context that my colleagues are working in all the time. And we're saying there needs to be accountability.
Sudan is the war that has been pushed out of the way by everything that's happening in the Middle East. Can you contextualize it for us in terms of the need, the numbers of people dying, the numbers of people reliant on food aid?
So you've got 34 million people in need right now, 9 million internally displaced, 4.5 million displaced into neighbors. So you've got that rip.
If you don't restrain Israel when they hit an ambulance, then of course they're going to start double tapping. If you don't restrain Israel when they start double tapping, they're going to start triple tapping. That's it. Why would they stop? We are allowing this to happen over and over again. Why would they stop? We're giving them the arms to do so. We're giving them the political cover to do so. We are I mean, they're not going to stop. They've shown their willingness to engage in commit such atrocities. If America doesn't restrain Israel, then why should they stop? This is why I think the Jesus statue conversation is like kind of silly, but you know, whatever floats people's boats, whatever gets people to recognize the cruelty of Israel, I'm on board with.
Full effect of the conflict going through South Sudan, through Chad, for example, and the needs are immense. You've got the massive weaponization of sexual violence against women and girls. Utterly, utterly devastating. It's the worst humanitarian crisis in the world right now.
I mean, just finally, I mean, you're an international diplomat now, but you were, of course, a British diplomat and a British advisor in Downing Street, just as the Foreign Office is in perhaps its biggest crisis of modern times. I mean, do you agree with the assessment of how bad the crisis is in terms of the relationship between the Foreign Office and Number 10?
I spoke personally this morning and immediately got a lot of feedback that my views on the UK political situation were not part of my job, nor that welcome at the moment. So what I would say is I don't think
he's not
it's
a
in
British
Britain's
diplomat
interest.
any longer. It's Tom Fletcher. He's the head of the UN like humanitarian rights mission or something. I forget what his like position is, but he's not like a normal diplomat. UN emergency relief. The UN emergency relief coordinator. That's why he's being so open about everything.
I don't think it's in Britain's interest to erect this sort of permanent circular firing squad, which looking in from outside is often the case. Certainly has been the case over the last decade or so. I'm watching this current political drama. I know most of the characters.
Ollie Robbins is a friend of
pretty
yours.
well. Yeah, I've known Ollie for a long time, and I've worked with him for many decades. He's a guy of just immense integrity. I'm sad for him that he's lost a job that was actually also a vocation. And I really hope that the UK can get back to looking outwards again. And you know, it can sometimes feel a bit introverted at the moment.
Tom Fletcher, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Christian.
And there's a longer version of that interview with Tom Fletcher on the Forecast podcast on YouTube.
There is so much tragedy here in amongst all the rubble. A younger brother, Salam's only sibling, killed in an Israeli airstrike before the ceasefire.
He went down south to check on our village, and there was an airstrike that got him. And he was martyred, his body torn apart. He was so young. My young brother is gone. I'm sure he now rests in heaven. God forgive Israel. What do they want from us? They should take themselves and leave.
They will keep bombing us. They will keep killing us. They'll take our lands. So there's nothing.
Do you think this ceasefire will hold?
No.
You sound very sure.
Yes.
Why? Why
Because
are you
it's
so
Israel.
sure?
Israel.
There are always wars with Israel.
100%.
Most of the people that we've spoken to are pro-Hezbollah, and you would expect that. This is Dahir, this is the Shiite neighborhood of Beirut. This is famously a Hezbollah stronghold. We needed their permission to come and film here. And what we're hearing is that the streets are pretty busy now, but in the evenings it gets quiet again. People are now just coming back to see what's left of their homes, collect what they can, and then go out back to wherever it is that they're having to stay. And these are people who have had multiple rounds of displacement for decades now. You know, this building was destroyed in this last war. 3 buildings here were destroyed in the previous war, 23-24. And this whole suburb came to being because of rounds of displacement of Shia from the south of the country through the 70s and the 80s.
After the ceasefire, a lot of people left to see what had happened to their homes in the south. But a lot then came back too, Hezbollah warning repeatedly that it just wasn't safe, that the ceasefire was too fragile. Which was why people like Mustafa decided to stay put in his tent in Beirut.
Is this the first time you've been displaced?
No. We have been displaced in 2006 and 2024. Also now in 2026. We don't mind. Stone, we can rebuild it. The stone, we can rebuild it. But we are strong. We have muscles. As they have muscles and weapons, we have weapons and muscles. We can defend our land. If I didn't want to defend my land, what I should be alive?
So you'll
I shouldn't be alive.
You'll fight with Hezbollah?
Yeah, of course. I should be with Hezbollah. I consider Hezbollah is the government now.
But for Israel, of course, Hezbollah is the problem, and for many Lebanese too. And as their endless conflict drags on, it is the young.
Oh my God. And for the many Lebanese, okay.
The innocent, who find themselves caught in the middle. Diana Magnay, Sky News, Beirut.
I'm just really...
It is really interesting that they're having a harder time. They're having a harder time finding anti-Hezbollah Lebanese people on these news reports. I don't know what happened.
Angry with so many colleagues right now that continue to say that there's a ceasefire in Lebanon. There is no ceasefire. You haven't talked to the families that I have talked to that continue to say Lebanon is being bombed brutally by the genocidal government of Israel, this murderous regime. They always say there's a ceasefire, and you turn around and see them not once, not twice. We're talking about hundreds of bombs going off in Lebanon using our tax dollars, US-made weapons. So push back, folks, to those that continue again to use the language of this genocidal government. Israel is not conducting any form of a ceasefire. They are bombing the shit out of Lebanon right now. And shame on those that continue to tell me, well, that's Beirut and that's South Lebanon. Lebanon is Lebanon. War crimes are war crimes. Medics are medics. Humanitarian workers are humanitarian workers. Children are children. Dense communities and neighborhoods are dense communities and neighborhoods. War crimes are war crimes, y'all. And shame on those that continue to, again, enable this government of Israel to commit these war crimes and use the language, oh, there's a ceasefire now for 10 days. There hasn't been a ceasefire, not even for an hour. So speak up, folks. Get your members of Congress to support our War Powers resolution to end the madness of our government participating or enabling this ethnic cleansing campaign by this genocidal government in Lebanon now.
Yep.
The average price of gas is still above $4 a gallon.
Someone said Dana Bash is yelling at Abdul Sayed. They turned up the bot attack bot farm on Abdul. All right, what do you mean? And Dana Fash is going after Abdul?
Sayed said.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Secretary of Labor has resigned. I know. Tapper lying about more Muslims again. I saw that too, where he brought up Mahmoud Khalil's name. In the process of being woke, when he was shitting on Elisa Stefanik, he still fired a couple shots at Mahmoud Khalil. We'll get to all that. Why did you say bot attacks? Oh, because all of these like random replies are like, can you stop? You equate Israel and Hamas with evil. You're disgusting, disrespectful, and another American hater. Assimilate or get out. UPOS. Oh my God. Oh my God. All of his replies are literally dirty Muslims continue to show how vile they are. Your sick fuck went too far with your comments. Your white liberal overlords approve and appreciate your Slavish dick washing obedience. Send N-word. Bring in the pigs. No, Democrats would rather send our tax dollars. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Unit 8200 working overtime here. Anyway, we'll get to all that. It's funny that this is what streamers like Hassan Piker, Extra Speed, or XQ have been doing for years. There's an entire ecosystem of YouTube channels dedicated to just clipping Piker stream, which rake in millions of views a month. Oh yeah, TBPN is a 7K live viewer pod that's sold to OpenAI for $200 million because their average clip gets 257K views. Everyone's talking about strategy. Here's the structure. Yeah, that's so. I mean, that stuff is so fake. Like it's so obviously fake and unbelievably inflated. That's an AI slop post anyway, and it's all about AI slop regardless. But yeah, there is no comparison. Like, we got real eyeballs and real attention out here. Ain't nobody's giving me fucking $200 million. I'd also never take that deal regardless, but it's just like funny. All right, let's get back to gas.
As we enter week 8 of the war in Iran, now that price is down since last week, but still far higher than before the war began. So when could Americans see gas prices down below $3 a gallon again? Well, here's what the Energy Secretary Chris Wright told Jake Tapper on State of the Union.
I don't know. That could happen later this year. That might not happen till next year. But prices have likely peaked, and they'll start going down. Certainly with a resolution of this conflict, you'll see prices go down.
This morning, President Trump talked to the Hill and undercut his own energy secretary, rather. He said, quote, "No, I think he's wrong on that, totally wrong." I'm joined by a very smart group of reporters today. CNN's Manu Raju, Emily Davies of The Washington Post, and Ested Herndon with Vox. Let's talk about energy and gas prices. Manu, it's not surprising that the president hears one of the people who work for him talking and probably saying something that is, I mean, not probably, almost definitely saying something that is true based on the data that he's looking at, that gas prices are not going to come back down, and gets upset about it. Never mind that I remember watching the president's interview with Maria Bartiromo last Sunday, and he said something similar. He said it could be around the midterms, they could go up, they could go down, or it could be even higher. Yeah, a little bit higher, he said.
He said it could be even higher. That's exactly what I was just about to say. He literally said that at that moment. When he said that, it immediately stuck out because the message from the Republican Party since the onset of this war has been, don't worry, gas prices are going to come down. It's okay. They don't have a plan to deal with gas prices. Their plan is to hope the war ends and that Americans will start seeing relief. So when the president starts saying something that completely undercuts that, that's one thing. And then he hears his energy secretary speak the truth, because gas prices, as we know, they go up very quickly and they take a very long time to subside. And this is going to be a real political problem. The speaker knows it. The party knows it, which is why they're not quite sure how they're going to deal with it.
Emily, I know you've been traveling I know you were in Iowa. Maybe you've done other traveling since you and I last spoke. But talking to voters who are going to decide whether or not to blame Republicans for the way that they see the economy going, gas prices.
What the fuck are these captions, bro? Sorry, I didn't even realize.
Specifically, and as you answer, I just want to show a latest poll from over the weekend. This is a Quinnipiac University poll. How much do you
Captions are on a different planet.
blame President Trump for rising gas prices? 65.
Dude, not much / at all 34. Okay, we have to have a serious conversation. We have to have a serious conversation, a sincere conversation about 30% of this country, give or take. Okay? 30% of this country, give or take, is just not living on the same planet as us. Every single thing that Trump says is good. Every single thing that he does is good. Trump could literally murder their children. Trump could set up an initiative where ICE goes directly door to door to his supporters' homes and starts assassinating their firstborn and openly say that they're doing it. And these guys will go, when asked, how much do you blame Trump for the assassination of your firstborn? They would say, not at all. I'm glad my firstborn is dead. He probably had bad vibes. He deserved it. Where the fuck are we, dude? These people are insane. I don't know how to deal with this shit. I mean, it's just like, what do you do? What do you do with these motherfuckers? They're out of their dang minds. Like, how can you look at the situation and go, how much do you blame Trump for the rising gas prices? Not much at all. Bitch, who are you blaming then? Biden? Is it Joe Byron? Is it Joe Brandon? Is he from the grave changing the gas prices? Who's responsible?
% say a lot or some.
Yeah, so I was in Nevada and Arizona last week and Iowa the week before. So I feel like I've talked to people from a lot of different parts of the country who feel different ways about the gas price issue. But one thing I will say is it feels still a little bit early to draw conclusions because, to your point, gas prices go up so quickly that I think voters intuitively believe the president that they will also come down quickly. Like, it doesn't really make sense to somebody who's not following the intricacies of the market that it would take so long for them to fall. And so it's still been a relatively short period of time. They're believing him that the second he kind of decides to end the war, gas prices will fall. But right now, there's certainly, as you see there, a lot of frustration, and that's reflected in conversations I've had.
Yeah, it feels like this, the back and forth with the energy secretary speaks to something I think it's hurt Trump consistently in the second term. You can't really acknowledge reality, and even his energy secretary doing so in words that he has similarly said has caused some of his ire. And I think it just speaks to some of how a lot of these crises are self-imposed. Like, voters can, I think, and I've heard some, make the association between tariffs and the rising inflation. And Donald Trump has really made that easy for folks because it's not as if these crises were imposed on him. They're ones that he has driven. And so I think it's been reflected not just in the polling you showed, but his approval ratings now in the 37%, lowest he's seen. And we see some signs of disapproval rating rising.
Let's show. We actually have one we were going to show.
Too.
Let's put it up on the screen. This is from NBC. This is about President Trump's handling of the war. And this is approval, which I think probably is driving the rest of his approval ratings. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And I was saying that there was the right track, wrong track numbers in that polling are the highest since it's been in his second term. And, as I was mentioning, the Republican approval rating, the amount of Republicans who say they strongly approve of him is going down too. And so I think although there has been some question about whether the schism and MAGA among, the Megyn Kellys or Tucker Carlsons represented his true coalition, it could be that they're more of a leading indicator and that we're going to see the public, particularly as gas prices come through the summer, might show more of that split on the Republican side.
I mean, the real problem is that they never, even from the beginning of this war, ever really sold it to the American public. So we came in knowing with very low, people didn't want to go to war to begin with. And typically, and when we've seen in conflicts past, war support for war decreases over time. And that is exactly what happened here. He already started at a low point. It's getting worse, and especially as people are getting hit with high gas.
That was a university poll? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Quinnipiac is not just polling people that go to Quinnipiac, man. It's a reputable pollster. They're polling a statistically appropriate sample size. I think I discovered why Casually Explained isn't subbed to you anymore, Lol. Why? It could be a million different reasons. There's a lot of... I have pissed off a lot of people over the years. I talk about every political issue. A lot of people have personal involvement with all of these issues I talk about. Politics is very personal. They come in, they hear what I have to say about like Trump sucking, and they're like, oh, I like it. And then they don't realize that I have a vision for a better future far beyond just simply saying Republicans suck. Although they do, and I say it every day, and I will continue to say it. I unfollow him every time he yells at me. Oh my God. This is like following since 2026, 0331 is so funny. You literally do. You've been a 21-month subscriber, and yet you've only been following for a couple days, for almost a month. That's how I keep track. That's so funny. Here, you're gonna get shook. I'm shaking you.
Gas prices. I hear some members of Congress tell me, well, there's a member.
Tell them happy birthday. Happy birthday, chatter.
Constituents, voters.
You got a birthday shake.
It's a patriotic duty to pay more for gas because of prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. But that is not the message that a lot of Republicans are saying right now.
And it's about the expectation game. One of President Trump's ticks, if you will, has historically been 2 weeks. Anything has going to happen in 2 weeks, whether it's a plan or something is going to end or going to begin. That has been the case since the beginning of this war with Iran. Let's watch.
It's going to be finished pretty quickly.
I do see a deal in Aranya.
Mr. President.
Could be soon. We are going to finish the job, and we're going to finish it very fast. We're getting very close. I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over. I will say the war in Iran is going along swimmingly. We can do whatever we want. And it should be ending pretty soon.
It's going to end soon. So that's what the people are hearing, and it's not happening.
It's here. It's going to end soon. It's going to end tomorrow. It's going to end in 2 weeks. And I think Manu's point is an important one. That comes after they never laid out a clear reasoning to the American public going into this, never coordinated with allies. And I really think Trump, across the board, has lost a lot of credibility and narrative-setting power in this second term. And so I think he's used to being able to say, I'll do this then, or I'll do that then, and the base only will follow along. And it's not as if we're seeing like a huge thing in terms of the numbers, but I think that power, that determinative power, is getting less so. And so you're seeing some of those cracks among.
Why is it so hard for him not to sound like a rapist? Because he is one. That's it. That's literally it. He is one, and he's never been held accountable for being one his whole life. So now he just gets to rape the earth. That's what happens when you don't actually punish or hold accountable someone who is a rapist. They embrace their rapist tendencies, and depending on the position that they're in, if you put them in charge of the United States of America, they get to rape the planet, literally. And they speak like one in the process, and they have the mentality of a rapist because they are one.
Republican caucus, and I just think more so, his MAGA coalition went beyond the strict party. And so those type of people he brought in are the ones most likely to be upset by some of these actions.
Yeah, I mean, when 2/3 of people responding disapprove of the way you're handling the war, it's not great. And obviously they know that at the White House, which is why they have talks coming, and they're trying desperately to wrap it up.
Do you believe the price of oil and gas will be lower before the midterm elections?
I hope so. I mean, I think so. It could be. It could be or the same or maybe a little bit higher.
How much longer will Americans continue to see these high gas prices?
Well, they're not very high. If you look at what they were supposed to be in order to get rid of a nuclear weapon with the danger that entails.
President Trump pushed back on Energy Secretary Chris Wright's comments this morning, telling The Hill that Wright is, quote, totally wrong, his words, totally wrong about it potentially taking until next year for gas prices to drop below $3 a gallon. Let's go live right now to our senior business reporter, David Goldman. David, how should consumers interpret these very different messages from the White House?
He always covers all bases. It could be lower, it could be higher, it could stay the same. You never know. Gas, oil, do we even need such a thing? Many people say it's what keeps the world spinning. I say to you, things will be fine. Sometimes it's more expensive, sometimes it's cheaper. Who knows? Who knows what tomorrow may hold?
When might we actually start seeing gas prices returning to what they were before the war with Iran?
And you need to add in Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who said last week that we could have gas with a 3 in front of it in the summer. So what does that mean? Is it $3.99 or is it 3 with a couple zeros in front of it? There are active questions about when we would actually see $3. The thing to know is that oil needs to come down to historically around $60 a barrel before we start to see sub $3 prices, and we are nowhere close to that right now. We're in the 90s right now, closing in on 90 for U.S. oil, and what we don't know is when we're going to see that strait reopened. There's a lot that needs to happen before then, and so that's where we are right now with a big question mark about the future path of gas prices.
Casually explains that if you listen to Richard Wolff or Hassan Piker, neither even knows what a share is or how business formations work. And so, of course, it's easy to criticize something that exists only in your imagination that you've never interacted with. How does he square that circle with the fact that I have a more successful content creation business than he does, including one that is a cooperative, one that is literally a cooperative-owned corporation?
Damn, this guy's good.